deaths. For months, restrictions have been left to regional leaders in the country who have struggled to keep the spread of the virus under control. The UK government has announced its latest strategy to reach a zero-carbon emissions economy by 2050. It comes less than a fortnight before the COP26 summit in Glasgow begins and shows a heavy focus on the development of electric vehicles. Chris Jones has more from London.
It's a plan that could dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions by placing a focus on the development of electric vehicles. The UK government has pledged to invest over $850 million in grants for electric vehicles, and a further $480 million will go towards helping automotive manufacturers make the switch to electric. Business Minister Greg Hands says this will have many great benefits for the nation. Chris Jones, London.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more depth at the life and times of Colin Powell, who died on Monday. The former Secretary of State came to regret his decision in 2003 to make the case for war against Iraq in a speech at the United Nations that claimed Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. It turned out he did not. It was that speech that Colin Powell knew would always figure in the first paragraph of his obituary, and in interviews he often bristled when he was challenged again to apologise for it. But he was more than just one speech. A career military man, a Vietnam veteran with an astute mind for diplomacy, and one of the first American centrists to realise that the Republican Party was drifting from its moorings. Former British Cabinet Minister David Mellor.
Colin Powell was a fascinating man in so many ways. He served in the forces where he was hugely successful. He then made the transition from a military role to a civilian role, and there were times when he was spoken of as a potential presidential candidate, but I think there was family resistance always to him doing that.
His wife Alma blocked the notion of a presidential run, fearing a black candidate would face a possible assassination attempt. Barack Obama proved that wrong, and in 2008, Colin Powell backed him over Republican John McCain. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the top news again. A gang which kidnapped 17 missionaries in Haiti is demanding $1 million in ransom for each person. Facebook has agreed to pay more than $14 million to settle civil claims brought by the U.S. government. And members of Russia's government have recommended a nationwide lockdown as the country experiences record COVID-19 infections and deaths. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Rebecca Foster reporting.
The Subway restaurant chain has reacted with shock this week after executives discovered that many customers are apparently purchasing footlong sandwiches and eating the entire 12 inches by themselves. A spokesperson for the company addressed reporters this morning.
This is not how our products are intended to be consumed. Our footlong subs have always been meant to be shared among 2 or more friends. Eating an entire foot of food shouldn't be possible for most people, but they've been doing it somehow, and it needs to stop.
To encourage healthier eating habits, Subway is clarifying its marketing, adjusting language on menus and in television commercials like this one. $5 footlongs? Wow, that's $2.50 per person. Subway's corporate leadership says they were horrified to learn of the misunderstanding.
It's frightening. I mean, you don't see people eating entire pizzas by themselves. We even cut the footlongs in half into 2 regular-sized sandwiches before handing them to you. But I guess that wasn't clear enough.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, where you're invited to join the discussion, talk about whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160 is the call-in line if you want to do that. That's 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
And Ian. And Conan.
And we have a very special something planned later tonight.
Off the radio after the radio show's over.
Yes.
I have been dreading it all day long.
I have as well. See, yesterday I was mentally prepared for it. I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm ready. Let's do this. And today I'm like, oh man, it's here. Today is the day after the show tonight at video.freetalklive.com when Conan and I are going to eat ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers.
This was y'all's idea.
It was.
Okay.
I want to be able to say that I did it. I just don't want to.
See, I've done it.
And if I had known that you would go habanero heat, I would have brought you some. I have a whole pile.
I thought you guys were going to be ramping it up. I thought that was what we were saying.
that was what we were doing as well, but we never really planned it out.
Have you seen how big these things are?
Which
Arya's
ones?
talking
The
about.
Reaper? You talking about the
Arya's talking about eating more than one of these things.
I've eaten more than one in the past.
Dried.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect the capsaicin levels.
These are fresh and they're well ripened. Nice
Okay, so
red.
That just makes them harder
nice,
to eat
beautifully
when they're dry.
red.
Let me see if I got
Reapers.
this straight, though. Y'all are just going to jump straight to the Reaper. There's not going to be a ghost pepper.
I'm not doing any of this ramping up nonsense.
Okay.
I'm just going to. I'm going to end it.
Because we thought there was going to be jalapeno, habanero, ghost pepper, Reaper. Okay.
See, I'm starting with a ghost pepper.
I got habaneros in the fridge. I mean, if we really need them, but
You have actual habaneros?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, starting milder and getting
I know you have a
spicier.
high metabolism and all, but still, there's not a whole lot of you to go around. You're talking about just too much.
I don't know, man.
You're gonna poison yourself.
No, not at all.
Oh,
I've eaten 2 Carolina Reapers in the past, and I was fine, relatively. It's very painful, but that's what we're doing tonight after the show.
Yeah, I brought a gallon of milk too.
roughly
good.
10:30 Eastern will be the start time at video.freetalklive.com.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and you can watch us torture ourselves.
For all
fun
you
for the viewer.
for all you Squid Game lovers out there who love seeing people miserable, people in pain, you're going to get more of that on the show at 10:30.
Now, have you watched this Squid Game?
I have, and actually, I have some comments, but I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who's planning on watching it.
Okay.
It's very
awesome.
popular. Lots of people are talking about that show.
Speaking of people who are miserable, though, the independence movement here in New Hampshire has caused some people to get upset. Unfathomable though it seems, because we're simply arguing that, the people of New Hampshire should be able to vote on whether or not they want to secede.
Yeah, that is the proposal that is being submitted to the New Hampshire legislature by a state representative, Mike Sylvia, longtime fan of Free Talk Live, actually, Mike Sylvia.
Has been submitted at this point, hasn't it?
It is waiting for the bill number. I mean, it's been submitted. He got 9 co-sponsors for this, which the maximum number of co-sponsors you can get is 10. So this thing is shown. I was surprised that this many people, this many other state reps are willing to sign on at the very beginning of this thing, because politicians are cowards, right? For the most part, they
want to get reelected. They don't want to say the wrong thing and piss off the wrong people, and then.
Right. So the fact that it's not just lonely old Mike Sylvia and maybe one other guy.
Yeah, at the very start of this, didn't he warn us that any bill that has his name on it is considered toxic and no one wants to touch it?
No, I don't think so.
I thought he said something to that effect in one of the first 2 meetings.
No, he's been a successful multi-term state legislator. He's willing to put everything on the line for this at this point. He's been there awesome. This is his 5th term, so he's spent almost a decade.
And for those who don't know, this will just be an additional amendment to our, what is it, the 7th Amendment?
Yeah, that's right. 7th, whatever you call it, Bill of Rights.
That just basically says, all right, feds, we are starting secession. We're gonna remove ourselves starting now.
It's even better than that. It's not even we are gonna remove ourselves. It's we have removed ourselves. We're independent now.
Declaring independence, independent nation. We'll figure out all the details later.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. And we might not be alone. Well, Texas might be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I hope it kicks off a domino effect, honestly. I mean, whether it's Texas that goes first, but they're not going to, because it's harder for them to get legislation put in, or California, then whoever goes first, others
New
are
Hampshire
going to
seems
follow.
To have certainly pushed this ball further than anyone else at this point.
Well, if you think about it, the only reason this hasn't already happened is because, well, it happened once before, and that whole idea has been tarnished. Talking about the Civil War.
Sure.
But you also have states who are relying on a lot of Fed money.
Yeah, but New Hampshire isn't one of those.
Well, obviously not. We just kicked away $27 million of vaccine help.
The only state, by the way, to do that.
So that is
so far.
That was beautiful. But I mean, as the money starts to shrink, as the benefits, the federal benefits start to shrink and wane, more and more states are going to be like, well, why are we? What are we paying into?
Well, as far as
you're not sending us our money back. So I mean, why don't we just hey, we're not going to be your enemy. We don't want to go to war with you. We're just going to do our own thing right over here in the corner. Bye, Felicia. Bye.
That's exactly it. As far as I can tell, there is no benefit to staying within the United States.
And when you consider all of the mandates that have come out this last year. Southwest, prime example. CEO came out today. He's like, or maybe it was yesterday. He's like, I never wanted to implement that vaccine mandate, but Biden made me do it. The Biden administration made me. Yeah, he's
full of it. He's from the World Economic Forum.
Oh, he's horrible. But I mean,
but the Biden administration didn't make him do it. It's, as far as we can tell, they haven't actually released any sort of order about it.
Exactly.
They just tweeted about it.
So you have companies who are jumping on the wagon, and it's biting them in the a-hole. It's biting them.
It's good to see, right?
Yes.
Employees standing up for themselves and companies having to back down because, as I've been saying for the last few months, look, people out there, if you just stand your ground here, your employer is screwed. They can't afford to fire people right now. Everyone has help wanted signs out there.
They were hurting before these mandates started dropping.
I want to come back to the independence question, though, because y'all were talking about, like, well, you know, what's the reason to stay with the federal government? Why would anyone want to do this?
Because they don't want the soldiers beating down their doors.
Well, okay, so
they're scared.
It's because
they're
they fear the unknown more than anything.
Whenever you look at there are different answers to this that you'll get from people as far as why they want to stay, and every single one of them comes down to fear. Every one of them, whether it's fear of the soldiers coming in or fear of a bomb being dropped or fear of losing their benefits, like Social Security,
which you're going to lose anyways, guys. The way it's working.
Yeah, or fear of China coming in. It's always based on fear.
By the way, China is already here. They've already planted their flags all over the place. They're taking over.
But just think about the mindset of these people who are afraid that the government, to whom they are swearing loyalty, will drop bombs on them if they, retract that loyalty.
Yep.
And yet they remain loyal not out of love or respect, but out of fear.
There's also this concept that we'll become isolationists and we won't do business with our neighbors across the river, which is why would we do that?
Stupid.
It's stupid.
That's because we were all taught in school that during World War II, the United States was isolationist, when in fact it was just non-interventionist.
Correct.
And
they
don't know the difference anymore.
Right, they never use that word. That's never brought up.
Ron Paul was the one who, I think, made that clear.
Yeah, mind our own business. We'll do business with you, but we're not going to be sending soldiers all over. What is it, 700, 800, 900 bases across the globe? No. Why are we paying for your military?
Well, if New Hampshire secedes, we wouldn't be.
When New Hampshire.
When. I like that.
Good stuff.
You have to believe it's possible, and I think that this step that we're making here in New Hampshire is going to help more people believe that it's possible, because now it's a real political proposal. Now it's it's going to get a bill number soon. That's what we're waiting on next. So it's like we don't know what the CACR number is, but that's what it's going to be. It's going to be CACR concurrent something resolution. I forget what it's.
Well, I mean, if you need an example of how this could work, so you're saying only a small amount of go-getters can make this happen. Just look at Southwest. Look at the protests they had yesterday. Couple hundred people went out on the road. You had all last week and the week before, the flights were canceled, and they were saying it didn't have anything to do with the mandate, but maybe it did. But I mean, that's a small percentage of the company can bring it to its knees.
That's true
anywhere. And it's the same thing with government. A small percentage of us could bring the whole damn thing to its knees.
Yeah, if only the libertarians could figure that out and actually move their ass to New Hampshire and help us make this possible.
Well, maybe once this starts making the mainstream media, because they're going to have to talk about this at some point. This is going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Maybe that will spur them to actually get up here to New Hampshire and help us become freer.
There are already letters to the editor from the haters. They're coming in.
Good stuff.
And we're going to hear what these haters have to say here in just a moment. But what do you think? Who's going to be the first to secede? Because it's probably inevitable at this point. 603-283-6160.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Arya, Ian, and Conan tonight. You can join us, 603-283-6160. We're talking about one of my favorite subjects, independence for the state of New Hampshire. Divorcing the United States of America, and New Hampshire declaring itself a sovereign nation, as, you know, it was always supposed to be until the United States government grew out of control and decided that it was sovereign over all of the 50 states.
You know what? That's the wrong word, because I never married this entity.
That's what makes this abusive relationship so much worse. I was born into this. I
like emancipation. Is that the correct word?
I would say so.
Sure.
So I've decided I was born into this, and I don't want to have any part of it. I'm going, but you have to get permission to do that. So maybe that's not the right word either.
Oh, to emancipate?
Yeah. So maybe there's, all right, help us out, chat room. Tell us what the proper word is. It's not divorce. It's not emancipate.
Declaring oneself free?
Sovereign?
Yeah, I mean, this is a declaration of independence. That's ultimately what would happen here when this thing goes through, whether it's going to happen in 2022 or 2024 or 2026, you know, who knows?
That's true. We are in New Hampshire, and there are a large number of Liberty reps that are likely to keep proposing this thing no matter what happens.
I sure hope so. I mean, I definitely don't want this to be a one-and-done thing. The way that you succeed in making something happen in the political system is you have to keep at it. You can't expect that it's going to go through the first time around, but
it might.
You never know. And if it doesn't go through the first time around, you try again and try again. That's how the marijuana reform happened. It took decades for the first decrim to go through.
And we're talking about how afraid people are, because that's the primary response to this, whether they're, as you said, afraid of losing their benefits or afraid of the United States invading us or blockading us or whatever. What sort of relationship is this? If being afraid to leave is the only thing keeping you in it.
Well, you had your battered housewife who's never gone out and gotten a job. She can't take care of herself because she's been provided for her entire existence. And she's in the same boat. She's like, I can't leave this poor abusive relationship because I'll never make it on my own. I'll just be cast out to the wild, to the wolves.
That sounds a lot like some of the objections to independence today. Oh, well, we wouldn't be able to make it. What? Look, I get the argument that California is obviously a stronger economy as far as it's huge.
But that's only because we're not freer than we are.
That's right. And also, look, there's plenty of small countries all around the planet. Why would someone believe that size has anything to do with this? You can go and look at the list of geographic size and the list of population, and there's plenty of countries that are geographically smaller than New Hampshire and plenty of countries that have a lower population than New Hampshire. And one thing those countries don't have that we do have is a large GDP. New Hampshire is relatively free, right? Like when you compare it to the other 50 states and you compare it to the rest of the world, we've got it pretty good already. And you cut out the federal government and all their stupid regulations on business and all their taxes and all their mandates and all their government reorganization of wealth, forced wealth redistribution, their inflation. You cut all that out, it's going to be a tremendous wealth increase for an already fairly well-off piece of land and the people within. I mean, we're going to do awesome.
New Hampshire is certainly doing well, but you're absolutely correct. There are a large number of countries like Haiti. Israel is smaller than the state of New Hampshire, and they seem to be doing just fine.
Yeah, they get a lot of money from us. Haiti, I don't think Haiti should be on that list. I don't think Taiwan should be on the list.
It's just about geographic size.
There are examples of countries who almost want help, almost need help. Taiwan's an example of the bigger bad dude sitting right across the lake.
I believe El Salvador is pretty close to New Hampshire on
El
the list.
Salvador is smaller than New Hampshire, as is Belize, Djibouti, Fiji, Kuwait. There are a lot of independent sovereign countries out there that are doing at least fine.
And not all of them are islands. Some of them are actually just located. I mean, think about the really small countries like Andorra, for instance, which is located between France and Spain. I mean, it's just basically a tiny little spot in the mountains, essentially. San Marino, I believe, is also very, very small. Liechtenstein.
Jamaica is less than half the size of New Hampshire, as is Lebanon. So, I mean, geographic space isn't the the issue. Population isn't the issue. There are plenty of people here. There's plenty of arable land here. There's plenty of forests here.
Tons of land. We got plenty of space.
There's even a sea coast. It's small, but you could receive shipments there.
Yeah, there's a port and international border with Canada as well. So 2 international borders before we declare independence, and then we'll have 4 international borders.
And when you consider how much of that New Hampshire is federally owned, they're just gobbling it up as fast as they can get their hands on it.
Not as much as the states out west, though.
Oh, yeah. True, correct. But yes, there is protected lands that we can't do anything on. I was coming down, I don't know, I told you guys, when my parents visit, I was coming down the Connecticut River, and there's nothing. There's no houses on the river. There's no boat ramps. There's nothing. There's no way to get back off. And it's beautiful, beautiful land. I found an island out in the middle, 8 acres of just island that, by the way, I'm going to go live on when it hits the fan. And I looked it up. I didn't know where the hell is this thing? What is this? And I looked it up. It's called Dunshee Island. And one of the natives of the place the town that we were in gave it away. They gave it to Fish and Game. Gave it away. Now you can't do anything on it. You can't camp on it. You can't have a fire. It's horrible what the feds do with the land. It's almost like they don't want us out in the woods living on our own, doing our own thing. It's almost like they want us in the cities, living in cubicles.
Right, they want you dependent.
So just thinking about all the land that we'd get our hands back on if we got the feds out of our life.
I mean, a lot of people are also worried about, blockades and stuff like that, and the United States not allowing travel to New Hampshire or through New Hampshire or whatever. But the reality of this is that if they blockade New Hampshire, they're also killing the state of Maine. Because
Well,
you can't.
No, I mean Alaska's separate.
I don't think Maine or Vermont would have any issues with
Yeah,
us.
but you
I think
wouldn't
I would do work
you
with
wouldn't
us.
be able to travel.
Massachusetts, on the other hand, they might not let us in and we have a lot of back and forth. A lot of people live in Massachusetts, work in New Hampshire, and vice versa, because that's just the way it works.
My point is, though, that you can't reach Maine by land without going through New Hampshire.
You can't reach Alaska by land without going through Canada.
Right.
And it's a lot longer of a drive.
Sure, but no one's arguing that Canada is going to blockade the United States, and that's what people are arguing about New Hampshire seceding.
Yeah, I don't believe that will happen at all. I mean, it's just.
I mean, look
it's
at Europe.
unbelievable.
Look at Europe. I mean, they bunches and bunches of little countries, and do they have a problem with it? Are they building walls around their countries?
No, they're not.
No.
And they didn't invade or blockade Great Britain when they did Brexit recently. So I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense. Plus, it's also important to remember, and it was credit to Bob Murphy for pointing this one out in his paper that he wrote about Texas declaring independence and what would happen, what some of the objections would be. Remember, there's going to be loyalists here. I got 2 letters to the editor from some of these loyalists, these American, U.S. government, U.S. federal loyalists. They're still going to be living here when New Hampshire declares independence. So any blockade is going to blockade them and is going to punish them. And those folks still want their Social Security and they want their federal programs and all that. And so I don't think you're likely to see that happen. That's another reason why they're not going to drop bombs on us either. They're going to kill their own supporters. That's not going to look good.
No, I mean, this isn't the 19th century anymore. A lot has changed. I don't see any possibility of blockades or bomb droppings or invading or anything like that.
They're going to have to negotiate is what they're going to have to do.
They will. And New Hampshire has a lot of cards it can play in these negotiations. We're going to get into these letters from the letters to the editor and why some people are so upset about the idea that New Hampshire may declare itself to be free. Sounds like a good idea to me, but what are your thoughts? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. A gang which kidnapped 17 missionaries in Haiti is demanding $1 million in ransom for each person, according to the Haitian Justice Minister. The American and Canadian missionaries were returning from a visit to an orphanage on Saturday when the bus they were traveling in was seized. 5 children were among those taken. FSN's Kate Fisher reports.
400 Mwozo gang, notorious for mass kidnappings, carried out the abduction. The same gang abducted a group of Catholic clergy in April. They were later released, but it's not clear if a ransom was paid. All of those kidnapped are US citizens, except one who's a Canadian national. They worked for Christian Aid Ministries. The White House says that the US State Department and the FBI are assisting Haitian authorities with the case. The attack is part of an alarming surge in kidnappings in Haiti as the poverty-stricken country struggles to overcome a series of crises, including an earthquake and the assassination of its president.
Facebook has agreed to pay more than $14 million to settle civil claims brought by the U.S. government. The settlement is over claims Facebook's hiring practices intentionally discriminated against Americans in favor of foreign workers. Here's Rachel Silverman from Silicon Valley.
Facebook has agreed to pay a civil penalty of $4.75 million to the U.S. government and up to $9.5 million to eligible victims of Facebook's alleged discrimination. The lawsuit says Facebook's practices violated federal laws that require employers to demonstrate there are no qualified U.S. workers available before it offers positions to temporary foreign workers it's sponsoring. Officials say this is the largest monetary settlement of its kind under the anti-discrimination provisions in U.S. immigration laws.
Members of Russia's government have recommended a nationwide lockdown as the country experiences record COVID-19 infections and deaths. For months, restrictions have been left to regional leaders in the country who have struggled to keep the spread of the virus under control. The UK government has announced its latest strategy to reach a zero-carbon emissions economy by 2050. It comes less than a fortnight before the COP26 summit in Glasgow begins and shows a heavy focus on the development of electric vehicles. Chris Jones has more from London.
It's a plan that could dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions by placing a focus on the development of electric vehicles. The UK government has pledged to invest over $850 million in grants for electric vehicles, and a further $480 million will go towards helping automotive manufacturers make the switch to electric. Business Minister Greg Hands says this will have many great benefits for the nation. Chris Jones, London.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You're welcome to join us. 603-283-6160 if you would like to do that. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And we're talking about New Hampshire independence and the constitutional amendment that has been put forward in the House of Representatives that would allow the people of New Hampshire to vote on whether or not New Hampshire should peaceably declare itself to be independent of the United States. And this actually all came about ultimately because of a call that Dave Ridley of Ridley Report, who's joining us now, made to Free Talk Live a number of months ago when you and I were on the show together, Ian.
Yeah, that's right.
And the issue was that the hearing of these bills is kind of expensive, estimated to be like $2,000. And we were like, look, if that's the holdup, we'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's...
I don't have a lot of money left, but the church doesn't have a lot of money on hand, but we'll do what we can.
But that's where we're at now. And now there's an actual bill put forward in the House of Representatives that would allow the people of New Hampshire to vote on declaring independence. Dave, You're on Free Talk Live.
Thanks, guys. This is not precisely an independence thing, but it's independence related. I mentioned to you that an NH activist was arrested last week. Did I already mention that?
Are you referring to the meeting of the Executive Council and the governor where 9 people were arrested? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, Therese Gurnell was arrested.
Was it 9? I thought it was just 2.
9.
She's not super active with us, but she is one of the NH Exiters, and she's more active on the anti-mandate front. But
yeah, she's a nurse who got activated, I think, like 2 months ago. She just kind of woke up that there's some crazy stuff going on and she needs to stand up about it. So she's risen to basically the top of the activist atmosphere, if you will, and has successfully organized huge rallies so far, including one with ostensibly over 1,000 people marching in the streets of Concord a few weeks ago on a Saturday. So a lot of people are paying attention to this lady, and she recently spoke out in favor of New Hampshire exiting the United States. So that's awesome.
There are additional updates. There are additional updates regarding that incident, that event where she was arrested. It was a government meeting. She wasn't really doing anything there, but she might have been charged with something she might have said earlier, like during a meeting or something. I don't know. But she was charged with disorderly conduct, so it's not a serious charge.
That's a serious charge. If you're charged with disorderly conduct, that is usually charged as a misdemeanor, and she could be facing up to a year in jail.
Okay, all right, that can be serious. Yeah. Anyway, that wasn't precisely what I was calling about. I wanted to mention that reopenh.com has put out a warning that this show may not be over in terms of the feds actually getting that money through to the state and the state accepting it and all these strings that came with it and so forth. So what Reopen is claiming is that it's gonna. They say that the governor has actually indicated he will try to find another way to ram this through. So
I'm not surprised.
What's going to happen is they think he's going to try to take. It's like something to do with the fiscal committee where the fiscal committee could maybe rewrite it and resubmit it to the executive council or so forth, or so on. So that might be the next path that they try to take to push this through. I mean, I don't understand why someone would. It doesn't. Normally, you would expect a politician to, the people don't want me to do this. I guess I better get in front of the parade. And,
because his allegiances lie with the federal government. He's been filleting them openly for the last 18 months during this whole COVID thing, and there's nothing that the federal government can do that he is, truly going to go against. He wants to play in the federal pool. He wants to run for U.S. Senate, and he wants that power, and so he's cozying up with whoever it is he can cozy up with.
He's burning a lot of bridges in the process too. A lot of his supporters, people who voted for him both times. It's been two terms, right? But yeah,
3. I think he's on his 3rd now.
His supporters are coming straight out, and now whether they'll actually stick to their guns next time.
Because
next time
what
around,
they're going to say. They're going to say, "Oh, well, the Democrat is worse, so we don't like Chris Sununu, but we're going to have to vote for him."
Yeah, the lesser evil.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came right out and said that those counselors were basically in shorter. He basically came out and said they were retarded. And he is.
Yeah, how dare they go
and
against what
his
he wants.
comments are to this effect: "It's our money. Why would we say no to our money?" And this is one more reason to go back to what we were talking before: leaving the feds, just leaving them in the dust
because they control you, dimwit.
They give
That's why you say no.
And it's the same thing with the highways. The same thing with school funding and whatnot. They give it to us the way they want us to take it, instead of we spending our money the way we want to spend it. So why not send it to them in the first place?
Now there are people protesting Sununu's decision by going to some of the other Republicans' houses. So there have been what they call the honk brigade that's been going to Sununu's house, and they've been honking their horns in like 40 cars or whatever. Now they're banned from honking their horns, or they'll be arrested, apparently.
Is this another one of these city ordinances that his brother pushed through on the city council?
I just heard about it today, so I don't know what go ahead, Dave.
So if he was, this reminds me of that thing, where in Poland they kept doing things. Well, you can't have a Xerox machine. Well, then you can't have a printer. You can't have a mimeograph under the Soviets.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon they were banning onions because people might write on them, right? And that's when it collapsed. So they're going to keep moving in that direction, I guess. But there's a lot of other stuff related to that incident. So there is a fundraiser that was started, and in its first 5 days for the New Hampshire 9, they're calling them, the people who were arrested.
Oh, that's the second New Hampshire 9. There was also a New Hampshire 9 that got ticketed out in front of the governor's house in like late December for attempting to have a candlelight vigil, and some of those guys are actually going to what is expected to be a trial this week, although it may be continued. So I'm hoping to go out there on Thursday morning and cover that and bring a video camera.
That's one of the beautiful things about New Hampshire. We have so much activism that we have not one, but 2 different groups called New Hampshire 9.
Yeah, I guess the difference between the groups is the initial New Hampshire 9 was ticketed. This New Hampshire 9 were all arrested. So,
but there's some overlap between these individuals as well. Like Footloose would be
is in
both of them.
Yep.
So, but if you want to donate to the legal defense of the New Hampshire 9, the second New Hampshire 9, you would go to GiveSendGo.com, and you just search for NH9, and I should probably make that a song so you can remember it. GiveSendGo.com, NH9.
All right.
Thank you so much for the call to Dave, and for the call tonight, Dave, and for letting us know about that website. They should never have been arrested in the first place, and the whole ordeal when you
they were literally just sitting there.
Yeah, and the state police were just in the back, hiding behind this curtain, waiting to pounce. The whole thing, it was
a setup. They knew what they were going to do. They had this thing planned. I've seen them do this kind of stuff before here in Keene, where they plan to arrest activists. They know activists are going to be in a place, and they get their balls in order, and they get everything laid out. They had apparently multiple paddy wagons outside of this particular venue. They had dozens of state troopers on hand. Somewhere in the estimate of 50 state cruiser or state trooper cars were on the premises.
And what were the charges again?
Disorderly conduct. Almost all of them were hit with that. One was also hit with a resisting arrest.
And they were just sitting there. They were not allowed to be in the building or something?
No, they were allowed to be there. The first 2 were just sitting there. After that, some people spoke because it's upsetting, right? Like to see people who are not doing anything get arrested. And so some people spoke out and they were arrested for speaking out of turn or whatever.
Holy crap.
There are videos of this happening.
Yeah, with Sununu picks up his phone, sends a text message, and within a minute,
this guy.
The state troopers are converging for their first arrests.
What a toad.
Mm-hmm.
Hate that guy.
Yeah.
It sucks that could even happen, but especially here in New Hampshire. But it is all on video, and one of the beautiful things about this is that the state police are getting dragged for this incident on Facebook because they posted about how they arrested 6 people who were being disorderly. You know how police do on Facebook. And so many people just came out with the actual videos of the incident, and people who are longtime police supporters out there saying, you know, I've always supported the police, back the blue and all of that, but you guys were out of line here.
He's called them communists.
He's called who communists?
The negators, the people who are going against him. Sununu. Hold on, we gotta talk about this in a second.
We also have to talk about the haters who are saying New Hampshire independence is a terrible idea. But you can join us, 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way.
Love as your guide.
And liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live with Aria, Conan, and Ian. You're invited to join us. Share your thoughts and opinions. 603-283-6160 if you want to do that. That's 603-283-6160. And you know, there are a lot of naysayers out there writing letters to the editor and stuff like that about why New Hampshire should not declare independence. And I'm not upset by that. And in fact, I think it's a good thing. It makes more people aware of the drive for New Hampshire independence. And I just don't believe very many people are persuaded, by letters to the editor.
I don't know. I mean, there are obviously going to be people who are on the fence about any issue, and it very well could be somebody else's opinion that sways them one direction or another. Obviously, somebody who's a full-on supporter of independence isn't going to reverse course, and obviously somebody who's a full-on loyalist isn't likely to reverse course, but we don't care about those people. We care about the people that are in the middle, that aren't really sure, that are hearing about this for the first time, and they haven't really thought very hard about it, and they're coming up with objections in their mind. Those need to get answered.
I don't think letters to the editor actually sway your own opinion. I think what they do is they allow you the understanding that there are other people out there who feel the way that I feel.
That's true.
And so instead
You're
of
not
just
alone.
Exactly, I'm not alone, and now that I know that that our numbers are at least 2 at this point in time, maybe I'll write a letter into the editor, or maybe when I'm at the water cooler during work hours, during break hours, I'll actually start this conversation, or we'll talk about this letter to the editor with my fellow employees.
Yeah.
So it gets the ball rolling, but I don't think it actually changes your opinion.
Some people, I think, have had their opinion changed. I mean, it has to, because there's people on the fence. They want input. They want to
be told what to do, how to think.
There are those
people exist too.
There are those people. If a movement seems popular, it's going to attract more people. That's just the reality of how the human animal works.
Yeah, the collective.
And that's why, whether we like it or not, that's why we have to have a libertarian base here. We have to have a large group of liberty-minded people who are active to give those come-alongs the excuse to come along, to say, oh, there's a bandwagon over there. Hey, I like this liberty stuff now that I see that it's popular.
Excellent point. Well, let's go to the phones. We have Douglas calling. Douglas, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
So first off, I want to say I agree that and support your secession from the Union.
Thanks.
Thank you. What state are you calling from?
Also, I'm from Tennessee.
Okay.
Good state.
And Tennessee.
Yep.
And how's nobody doing?
I don't know. I haven't had contact with nobody since our brief contact on March the 16th. We were in jail together.
Yeah, unfortunately, both Aria and I are prohibited by bail, very restrictive bail conditions, from speaking with nobody. But I've heard through the rumor mill that he's doing all right, all things considered. He's out of jail. He got out in early September. And rumor has it he's looking for a place back here in Keene. He'd moved up to the North Country, and it was just there just wasn't enough going on for him. He likes to be, he's very social. He likes to be around people.
I can verify that he is back in Keene. I actually
good.
saw him at a gas station on my way to work recently.
Nice. All right, good to know.
So as far as I can tell, he's doing okay.
Cool. Thanks for the update.
Sure.
All right, so the nitty-gritty. So say New Hampshire does secede and get secession from the Union. All right. So as a libertarian in the borders, private property, how would you defend the border? Say I was to come in, say I was coming in from Connecticut with my family, and I just plopped down on a piece of land, and I homesteaded there, and it was somebody else's private property. What would be the measure you would take to stop that from happening.
I wouldn't, but if that private property owner wanted to take some measures to stop it from happening, I would not necessarily object to them as long as the measures they were taking were proportional to what you were doing.
Well, it sounds to me like you're asking a question about private property ownership and homesteading and what, if anything, would be different in a freer New Hampshire, not so much about the quote-unquote national borders, which are two totally different questions. Now,
No, I know. I'm trying to correlate the same things. Say I owned all the border of Texas, and it was my private property.
But you don't,
Do I have
and
the right?
there's no chance that
Well,
you ever would.
No. Listen, if I own all the border of New Hampshire, do
You
I have the
don't,
right
and
to
there's no
stop
chance
people
that
from-
you ever would.
The feds own a lot of the stuff just east of us.
Maybe I can't.
West
maybe
of us.
I can. Okay.
No, you
Delaware.
can't, and here's why you wouldn't be able to.
Delaware, for
As you started
Delaware
buying
for
up,
example.
hold on, there's an economic reason why you wouldn't be able to do it. As you started buying up properties along the border of New Hampshire, word would get around that some guy from Tennessee's coming in with a bunch of money and buying up all the properties on the southern border of New Hampshire. So you know what would happen? All those property owners, they'd raise their price real fast, knowing that you're coming around with a ton of money.
And it's also New Hampshire. A lot of them
Yeah.
would flat out refuse to
Yeah.
sell to someone from Tennessee who
That's
was
true.
buying all the border.
Yeah, even if it was, So it's just not even a possibility. But go ahead with your scheme.
It's not a scheme. It's an honest question.
Go ahead.
But you're saying that it's an impossibility.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's economically highly unlikely.
It's highly unlikely.
So you know the future?
I'm telling you the reason why.
You're saying it's hypothetically.
Even
not
if you had
likely to
unlimited
happen.
funds, you still wouldn't be able to buy out every single piece of property along the border of New Hampshire.
All right, wait, but hold on. Let me add to your
Humor me.
question. Why would you buy? What are you planning to do with the southern border of New Hampshire? How are you going to You have to maintain it. You have to.
Yes, exactly. I would homestead, and I would.
You're gonna take all of southern
No,
New Hampshire and homestead it by yourself?
Do you want to listen to the question that I'm going to
Yeah.
give, the answer that I'm going to give to you?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will bring people up there. We will establish plots of land along the border, devise a security plan, hold the land, cultivate it, and then sell the goods as we see fit.
So you're going to do business with your neighbors. Except you're going to steal from your neighbors to get this land, so you're going to make enemies from the get-go. No one's going to do business with you.
Conan, he didn't say anything about stealing land.
I never said steal. I never said steal. You're putting words in my mouth.
Okay, so you haven't burned bridges, but you would want to do business with us because you need money, you need product.
I said I bought the land.
Okay, so how are you going to survive?
I bought the land.
Okay, Douglas,
if I bought the
calm down.
land, is it not my land?
Okay, why? All right,
okay,
so you bought the land. So what's the question?
Hold on, Conan. Yes.
He's saying he wants to be like a warlord.
What is the point of this hypothetical?
I'm
What
not
are you
saying
getting
that.
at?
It was a question. You're twisting the words again. I'm giving you
Douglas,
a hypothetical situation.
Douglas, hold on. You're on hold because I need you to calm down for a second. Okay, let's say all of your hypothetical is true. What are you trying to get at? What point are you trying to make? Go ahead.
I'm trying to ask a question on what you people. I'm not saying I would do this.
So you're just what if someone bought all of the borders around New Hampshire and
he specifically said
Wallace Inn.
He didn't say Wallace Inn. He said he would stop every product and then basically you would control what goes in to New Hampshire, right?
No, I did not.
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out what's the point.
The goal?
Can I answer Ari's question first?
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
It's a lot going on right now. I was proposing a hypothetical, and then you twisted it and gave me. All I want to know is, if this did happen, what would be your solution to stop it from happening?
What are you saying would happen exactly?
I just told you what would happen.
Well, I misunderstood it, obviously, because I got the impression you wanted to, intercept everything that might come in and make money off of everything coming in.
No, did I say that?
That's what I heard you say. So I'm asking you what you would do. What is it you're proposing?
No, I never said that.
Why would we want to stop you? You haven't said you're going to do anything then. So what are you proposing?
I said at the get-go, if I come across the New Hampshire border and I go onto private property.
Okay, that's a different.
That's what
Let him finish. Let him finish. You go onto private property and you buy it.
That is literally what I said.
No.
Can you finish?
You said you bought the land, and that's why I was back there saying that you stole it and became a warlord.
In the get-go, at the very beginning, play it back. I dare
Dude,
you.
we don't have to play it back. You're on the damn phone. What are you saying you would do? Would you buy the property or would you just homestead it, as you said? Because you said both.
You're twisting the
I'm
entire-
asking you what you would do. Jesus Christ.
And what? Jesus Christ is right.
Yeah, what the hell would you do? What are you saying you would do? Can you give us a clear answer?
I asked you the question, and now you're trying to make me answer a question.
All right.
Thank you for the call tonight, Douglas.
All right.
ridiculous.
To answer his question, because he initially said...
What was the question?
He initially said he would go onto private property and he would homestead it without
But he
without
also said he'd
permission.
buy it.
He did say that, but the hypothetical that he presented involved buying all of the property.
Then he said he would homestead it again.
Okay, if you come onto my private property and take my land and just set up camp, I'm going to shoot you. Now, if you bought that land... I don't see what the problem is. Do what you're going to do on your land. Now,
I will answer the hypothetical question here, saying he wanted to, charge a tariff on all traffic coming through.
He did
or
say
whatever.
something like that, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he denied saying
Okay,
it.
he's got to live with us. He's got to live with his neighbors.
No, it's not that simple. That's a form of taxation. That's a form of theft. That's aggression. And people in New Hampshire are armed.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not a good idea.
Keep out.
Otherwise, I don't know what the hypothetical would have been about. Maybe you can explain it.
You ain't homesteading the southern border.
283-6160.
Sorry, bro.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. A gang which kidnapped 17 missionaries in Haiti is demanding $1 million in ransom for each person, according to the Haitian Justice Minister. The American and Canadian missionaries were returning from a visit to an orphanage on Saturday when the bus they were traveling in was seized. 5 children were among those taken. FSN's Kate Fisher reports.
400 Mwozo gang, notorious for mass kidnappings, carried out the abduction. The same gang abducted a group of Catholic clergy in April. They were later released, but it's not clear if a ransom was paid. All of those kidnapped are US citizens, except one who's a Canadian national. They worked for Christian Aid Ministries. The White House says that the US State Department and the FBI are assisting Haitian authorities with the case. The attack is part of an alarming surge in kidnappings in Haiti as the poverty-stricken country struggles to overcome a series of crises, including an earthquake and the assassination of its president.
Facebook has agreed to pay more than $14 million to settle civil claims brought by the U.S. government. The settlement is over claims Facebook's hiring practices intentionally discriminated against Americans in favor of foreign workers. Here's Rachel Silverman from Silicon Valley.
Facebook has agreed to pay a civil penalty of $4.75 million to the U.S. government and up to $9.5 million to eligible victims of Facebook's alleged discrimination. The lawsuit says Facebook's practices violated federal laws that require employers to demonstrate there are no qualified U.S. workers available before it offers positions to temporary foreign workers it's sponsoring. Officials say this is the largest monetary settlement of its kind under the anti-discrimination provisions in U.S. immigration laws.
Members of Russia's government have recommended a nationwide lockdown as the country experiences record COVID-19 infections and deaths. For months, restrictions have been left to regional leaders in the country who have struggled to keep the spread of the virus under control. The UK government has announced its latest strategy to reach a zero-carbon emissions economy by 2050. It comes less than a fortnight before the COP26 summit in Glasgow begins and shows a heavy focus on the development of electric vehicles. Chris Jones has more from London.
It's a plan that could dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions by placing a focus on the development of electric vehicles. The UK government has pledged to invest over $850 million in grants for electric vehicles, and a further $480 million will go towards helping automotive manufacturers make the switch to electric. Business Minister Greg Hands says this will have many great benefits for the nation. Chris Jones, London.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more depth at the life and times of Colin Powell, who died on Monday. The former Secretary of State came to regret his decision in 2003 to make the case for war against Iraq in a speech at the United Nations that claimed Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. It turned out he did not. It was that speech that Colin Powell knew would always figure in the first paragraph of his obituary, and in interviews he often bristled when he was challenged again to apologise for it. But he was more than just one speech. A career military man, a Vietnam veteran with an astute mind for diplomacy, and one of the first American centrists to realise that the Republican Party was drifting from its moorings. Former British Cabinet Minister David Mellor.
Colin Powell was a fascinating man in so many ways. He served in the forces where he was hugely successful. He then made the transition from a military role to a civilian role, and there were times when he was spoken of as a potential presidential candidate, but I think there was family resistance always to him doing that.
His wife Alma blocked the notion of a presidential run, fearing a black candidate would face a possible assassination attempt. Barack Obama proved that wrong, and in 2008, Colin Powell backed him over Republican John McCain. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the top news again. A gang which kidnapped 17 missionaries in Haiti is demanding $1 million in ransom for each person. Facebook has agreed to pay more than $14 million to settle civil claims brought by the U.S. government. And members of Russia's government have recommended a nationwide lockdown as the country experiences record COVID-19 infections and deaths. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Rebecca Foster reporting.
After excitedly posting an image of a Lamborghini Rebenton to his Facebook account earlier this afternoon, 38-year-old little boy Nick Weber talked to Onion reporters about his passion for fast cars.
When I saw that car, I was like, whoa, it was so cool. I had to show it to all my friends. I like red cars the best, but only ones that are really, really fast. I can't wait to get one when I'm older. I'm going to get the fastest car in the whole world.
Though Weber also frequently posts about his other interests, which include motorcycles, fighter jets, and Marvel superhero Iron Man, the nearly 40-year-old small child confirmed that sports cars are his favorite, and the picture of the bright yellow Lamborghini has already garnered 15 likes and 9 comments from other enthused middle-aged children who are friends with Weber on the social networking site.
My best friend Bradley, he sent me a picture of a blue convertible that's so awesome. It has these big wheels and even has a racing stripe on it.
After watching several online videos of fast cars and eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch, the home-owning little tyke went to his room to take a nap.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, where you too can call in with long, stupid, pointless hypotheticals. But please don't. 603-283-6160. If you do want to share your opinions or your thoughts, you're more than welcome to. 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And I just don't see the point of hypotheticals once they get to a point where they're just so overwhelmingly unlikely to happen. It's like, sure, you might as well ask me, what if I woke up tomorrow and just felt like I wanted to reverse being trans and just live as a cis dude for the rest of my life? It's not technically impossible.
This is typical like libertarian master debating kind of stuff that goes on the internet, where all they have to do with their lives is just talk about freedom and talk about what these weird hypotheticals might be, whereas we here in New Hampshire are actually doing freedom. We're actually going out and making a difference. We're actually getting people elected. We're doing massive civil disobedience, things like that. That's happening here. All the people on the internet can do is just talk about it.
You have a good point, but I do have a hypothetical for people. What if the New Hampshire State House had a bill in it that called for the state of New Hampshire to peaceably declare independence if it was passed on the ballot? That's a hypothetical.
That's happening.
You're correct. That is right. Actually happening here in New Hampshire because we aren't spending our time debating silly hypotheticals.
Yeah.
And it's made some people upset. Some letters to the editor have been written.
Yeah, they mad.
And we're going to get into those. I'm looking forward to it because if you have haters, and I know this sounds like a bleak way of viewing the world, but realistically, if you have people who hate on you, you're doing something right.
It's the facts.
It is.
You don't take flack unless you're over the target.
It's such a bleak view of the world, though, man.
It's just the reality of the world. I mean,
but
haters going to hate, and if you're not doing anything that's worth hating, then they're not going to pay attention to you. I mean, I wish they didn't exist either, but the reality is they do, and you just got to move on and, Oh, and in this case, not ignore them, but in this case, they're actually helping us because they're bringing more attention to, like, if these haters hadn't written these letters to the editor, then there'd be nothing to respond to in the news media because the media itself hasn't really caught on to this story yet. There hasn't been, like, a big explosion of press coverage or anything like that. There hasn't even really been a little bit of press coverage at this point. But again, the bill hasn't even gotten...
will be.
I think so, too. The bill hasn't even gotten a number yet. So it's like the press can't easily refer to it. Like normally if there's an article about some bill that's being considered in Congress or state legislature, they say it's HB blah, 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 or whatever it is, right? They can't really even do that yet. So I think the news media is kind of holding off on potential coverage on this, but the letters to the editor are coming out. Do you want to hear one of them?
Absolutely.
There's two of them. One of them, and I found this in the NH Exit group on a chat room on the Matrix server. So one of them is actually in the Daily Sun, which is the Laconia newspaper. Now, Laconia is in the Lakes region, and that's where Mike Sylvia is located. He's a Belmont state representative, which is one of the towns in the Lakes region. He's the guy who created this piece of legislation, this constitutional amendment. To the Daily Sun. This was published yesterday. In there, so that means, Monday? Yeah. Or no. Yeah, Monday. 9 GOP members of the New Hampshire House of Representatives, including Michael Sylvia and Raymond Howard, representing Belknap County, have just betrayed the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America.
Look, I haven't said the Pledge of Allegiance since I was old enough to really understand what I was saying. And I suspect that's true of a lot of the libertarians here as well, the Free Staters. I don't think it's legally binding that I have, absolutely, I've said the Pledge of Allegiance when I was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
I don't think I should be held to oaths that I swore when I was 5 years old.
But this gives you an idea of sort of the mentality of this person, that they believe that the Pledge of Allegiance is, this important thing, and oh my God, you violated it.
Well, Sununu swore to uphold the New Hampshire Constitution, and every single U.S. president has also sworn to uphold the U.S. Constitution.
How's that working out?
They didn't keep their oaths either.
They spend an every day trying to rewrite it.
So even if I did, consider my Pledge of Allegiance to be valid, that's contingent upon them actually keeping their agreement as well, and they have not done that.
They don't want New Hampshire to be a part of these United States. Their co-sponsored bill, written by Belmont GOP Rep. Sylvia, provides that, quote, the state peaceably declares independence from the United States and proceeds as a sovereign nation, unquote.
I mean, he's right.
Beautiful. I know, exactly. It's beautiful what you just said. Why is he so upset?
Sylvia publicly announced on the Exit NH podcast, which he co-hosts, quote, "We will be the first nation outside of the United States," unquote. First of all, I don't think there is an Exit NH podcast. There is an NH Exit podcast, and Mike Sylvia isn't the host of that. That's Russell Canning who hosts that. But, you know, he got that one wrong. Some 80 free staters, mostly registered Republicans in our state legislature, hold similar beliefs. This guy just doubled the number of free staters for us.
Dude.
It's amazing. He says they want anarchy over government.
Oh, yeah. I will take anarchy any day of the week.
Now, when each
that said,
of us,
I understand what anarchy means and what it actually is.
Now, when each of us says, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands," we must think of these traitors in our midst. They would succeed where our foreign enemies have failed. They would break up these United States of America. They would trample on
I don't want them to be these United States. I want them to be those United States.
As though that's what the foreign enemy's goals would have been if they had ever tried to, bring tanks into the United. That wouldn't be the goal. Would be to break up the United States. It would be to take over and, militarily dominate. But regardless, he says they would trample on the graves of servicemen and women who died to preserve our one nation under God.
No one in the last century died to preserve the United States. They died to preserve the United States domination and the control of the dollar.
But he is just strumming those notes as hard as he can. Those sort of patriotic, just quoting
I can hear the Star Spangled Banner playing as you read this.
Mm-hmm. From now on, we must say the names of GOP reps Dennis Green, Scott Wallace, Dustin Dodge, Peter Sharosian, William Foster, Matthew Santo-Dostasso, Glenn Bailey, and Belknap's Mike Sylvia, and Raymond Howard with a contempt they deserve. All Hampshireites, including Republicans, Democrats, and undeclared voters, must name, denounce, and vote out of office all Free Staters and their sympathizers, and thereby diminish their anti-American beliefs, talk, and actions.
This dude just has no idea how badly they're losing, does he?
His name is Leonard Witt, and he is from the town of Sandwich.
Well, obviously a Republican.
I don't know.
I think he is. Maybe we
don't know.
He sounds like a Republican, but we're only seeing more and more Free Staters ending up in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, apparently 80 according to this guy.
Well, it's for sure at least 40.
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
and that's a higher number than it was last time.
That's what Jeremy Kaufman from the Free State Project has been pronouncing.
And I suspect that after the next representative elections, there are going to be more than 40.
Oh, and by the way,
that'd be nice.
And by the way, he sounds like an old Republican, and that's another thing you need to consider when moving to New Hampshire.
There's no other kind of Republican in New Hampshire.
That's true.
Well, I mean but the age, there's quite a lot of old people here.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
we are very young. We are going to outlive these people.
Yep.
Hugely.
True fact.
I made a blog post about that when I joined the New Hampshire, the Cheshire County Republicans. And I looked around. And I was like, these are all like very soon to be geriatric patients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised they can even get to those meetings.
Yeah,
already.
some of them.
And if you still have health care in a year, I mean that might even quicken this equation. If you don't have a hospital to go to because there's no one working there anymore, or you're not getting your Fed dollars.
And all of that would be a result of, the hospitals having to follow Biden's yet to actually be released mandate requiring people or hospitals rather, to require people to be vaccinated.
Right.
Which so far hasn't actually happened, but that's not stopping airlines and hospitals and other companies from implementing these policies, saying, oh, look, it's not our fault, it's Biden's fault.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if these letters are, because there's more than one. Like I said, there's also another one in the Seacoast by somebody else. I wonder if these are being coordinated.
Well, there was a
we would have heard about it.
There was a progressive strategy meeting.
That's right.
Has that happened yet?
I believe it has.
So that guy did not sound like he would attempt that particular meeting. Are the Republicans going to have their own strategy meeting as well?
I don't know. I mean, he does sort of strike against the Republicans in that letter. He may be a Democrat, but either way, there are definitely going to be Republicans who oppose this as well.
I feel like that was too much jingoism to be a Democrat. But I could be wrong. We've got another letter to the editor coming up because people are upset about the possibility of New Hampshire not being dependent on the United States government. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering FreePrivateCities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at FreePrivateCities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. FreePrivateCities.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntary libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and I want to tell you about Bitcoin.com. It is the best place to go to learn about cryptocurrency, and if you don't know anything about cryptocurrency, now's the best time. I believe that I'm not a financial advisor, but I believe that this is the best time you're going to get, probably for the foreseeable future, to get into cryptocurrency. The last I heard, Bitcoin was back up to like 64,000, which is like hundreds of dollars away from a new all-time high.
Yeah, we're like $900 away right now.
So it's probably only going to keep going up based on these trends. And I don't really even think the demand for Bitcoin is what's driving this right now. I think it's just the inflation of the USD. There's more USD, therefore it takes more USD to buy a Bitcoin.
That's a huge factor, I suspect.
But who knows what's really going on? Maybe you don't even know what Bitcoin is. Go to Bitcoin.com, click Getting Started, take a few minutes out of your day to watch a few short videos about this world-changing information, because it is one of your best bets to get away from how the U.S. government is doing everything that it can. I mean, I'm not saying the U.S. government is trying to destroy the economy, but if they were trying to destroy the economy, what would they be doing differently?
Exactly.
Bitcoin.com, learn about it. And if you already know about it, check out news.bitcoin.com, where you can stay up to date on all of the news and headlines that are relevant to you. That's news.bitcoin.com.
To your point on the demand or the Bitcoin moving around or whatever, there was an interesting observation. Somebody looked at the mempool. You can look at this. There's graphs and things like that. The mempool, for listeners that don't know, is where transactions that are waiting to be put into a block are sitting. So when you send a Bitcoin transaction, it goes into the mempool, and if there's not a lot of demand on the Bitcoin network, usually within the next 10 minutes, it'll get mined into a block, and once it's mined into the block, then it's permanent. It's there forever on this blockchain, which is one of the key technologies behind Bitcoin. Blockchain is, in this case, a public ledger that holds all the transactions that have ever happened on Bitcoin ever since the very beginning. So the mempool is this sort of important little waiting room, basically, for transactions. And when Bitcoin is full of transactions, meaning there's more transactions waiting in the mempool than it can take care of in one 10-minute block,
right?
Then it has to keep going through them, right? Like every block, every 10 minutes, it tries to process as many of them as it can, but there's a certain
And when this happens,
limit.
The transaction fee goes up and stuff like that.
Transaction fees go up, yeah. But what's happening is the mempool isn't full like it has been on previous times where the price has run up. So that leads to kind of your point of, well, is this more about the rising price or the lowering value, rather, of the dollar as much as it is about high demand for Bitcoin? Although another point was made on this, and that is that a lot of people are buying their Bitcoin through centralized services like Coinbase or Square Cash or Cash App. And in those cases, when you make a purchase of Bitcoin, quote unquote, through PayPal or Coinbase or one of these centralized services, there's not actually a Bitcoin transaction that goes on the network for that.
That's true. They just credit that amount to your account, but they hold it in their wallet.
Correct. So even if there is increased activity of purchasing, because of all the centralization around Bitcoin, it may not actually show on the blockchain.
Well, I would hope that anyone out there who's doing that would immediately move their cryptocurrency off of Coinbase.
Mm-hmm. Once you get enough to make it worthwhile. If you're buying $1 worth of Bitcoin, you're probably going to have to wait for a bit.
Yeah, true. But I can't imagine too many people are buying $1 worth of Bitcoin. But hey, to be fair, $1 worth of Bitcoin is better than $0 worth of Bitcoin.
If all you got's $1 a week to spend on Bitcoin, I would do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I were you.
mean, there's no reason not to.
Yeah.
And just about everyone could afford to spend $1 per week on cryptocurrency. And
no doubt.
Based on the trend, I mean, it's up like, what, 600% in the last 2 years, something like that?
Probably at least that.
Imagine turning your $1 into $6.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds minor, but if you did that every single week, then you're turning $52 into $30.
Yeah, it adds up.
So, yeah. Definitely head on over to bitcoin.com. Did I mean 300?
You said 32 or $30. You said 52 to 30.
Yeah, you're correct. So head on over to bitcoin.com to find out more about it if you haven't already. Someone mentioned at one point New Hampshire having its own state currency, which seems silly to me. Yeah, it is.
Who said that?
I don't know. Someone in one of our
it's going to come up
online discussions.
There are these things that are going to come up again and again as New Hampshire gets closer and closer to declaring independence, and obviously that's something that people are going to talk about. But yeah, we definitely don't want a centralized state currency. I think that a lot of the people leading this movement would agree with that.
What if it was backed by gold?
Well,
silver?
we don't need that. We already have the New Hampshire gold back.
Right.
They could just use that as the currency.
And that's where I was going with that.
Or Bitcoin.
We already have the option.
But you don't need
crypto,
the state to anoint something. You don't need the state to say, this is the official state. No, just let the market decide.
And I think the market would choose cryptocurrency and gold backs.
I hope so. somebody will still
they're
use a
certainly
dollar.
Popular.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
And yeah, I mean, they wouldn't outlaw the dollar. I wouldn't think. Hey, if you want to use the U.S. dollar, go for it. That's what El Salvador does.
Tons of places on the planet use the dollar.
Yeah, but see, a lot of people in their heads, they think, oh, well, if you're a nation, you have to have your own centralized state-run currency.
False.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. Bitcoin, gold, all of these things will work just fine, and they're already popular here in New Hampshire.
But first, we got to get through these haters. They are hating in the letters to the editor. Seacoast Online, you want to hear this one?
Absolutely.
This one was published also yesterday in the Portsmouth Herald. To the editor, 9 New Hampshire legislators have submitted a resolution for our state to, quote, peaceably declare independence from the United States and proceed as a sovereign nation, unquote, i.e. secede from the Union. And then in parentheses, they say, they don't seem to have given much thought to what the consequences of such action would be were it ever to happen.
Quite the opposite. Some of the people involved in this, like the guy at Liberty Blog, Alu has written multiple books about what would happen.
Yeah.
That opening sounded similar to the last one.
It sure did.
It was suspicious, and it was published on the same day.
It gets a little different, though. The secession proposal comes from members of the Free State Project, a group of anti-government zealots from around the nation.
By the way, Sylvia, yes, he's Free Stater.
Mm-hmm.
What about the other 9?
I don't recognize their names. Except for Matt Santanastasso, I don't recognize the other names.
Okay, interesting.
And Matt is, I believe, a Free Stater.
Interesting.
Did the previous letter even name drop Matt Santanastasso?
Yeah, it went through the whole list of sponsors, of which there are 9 co-sponsors.
Where New Hampshire allows a maximum of 10,
That's correct.
by the way.
Who've been moving to New Hampshire for the past 2 decades with a stated goal of taking over state government and creating a libertarian, quote, utopia, unquote. They selected New Hampshire as their target because of our small population and our narrow political balance, making it possible for them to have a significant effect on legislative actions. Hey, all right. I guess this person's admitting we've had a significant effect.
I mean, he did their research on the Free State Project and why New Hampshire was chosen, so there's that.
And now he cites where he's getting his information from. According to Free State Project Watch at freestateprojectwatch.org, there are more than 40 Free Staters in the New Hampshire legislature today, elected as Republicans.
This person is definitely a Democrat. I'm positive that website is run and controlled by Democrats.
Run by the left, yeah, for sure. Some suggest the number, including sympathizers, may be as high as 100. Talk about an endorsement of how successful we have been here. Not only, and I knew about this Free State Project Watch group. They've been around for several election seasons. What they do is they try to out the Free Staters. They try to investigate all the candidates and figure out who the Free Staters are and figure out who the friends of the Free Staters are. And then they publish a list, which basically works as like a voter's guide.
I know, right?
Like, tell me who I can vote for who's a Free Stater, because I don't know them all.
That's true.
But there's more this guy has to say.
And it's very nice of them to put that list together so that we, if we don't bother doing research, we can just head on over there and check out, hey, who do you hate? Because that's who I'm voting for.
Yeah, I've never done that much work, and they're doing it all for us. It's great.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new.
If you'd like to see
real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate. Results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great. Homelessness and hunger to eliminate. Let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The backlog at the 2 busiest ports in the U.S. has reached another record, with 100 ships waiting to enter the California ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. The 2 ports account for around 40% of all shipping containers that enter the U.S. Rachel Silverman has more from Oakland.
The 100 vessels waiting at the two ports tops last month's record of 97. Prior to the coronavirus pandemic, the highest number of ships waiting to dock had been 17, according to the Marine Exchange of Southern California. The backlog of inventory has stoked fears of higher prices and empty shelves during the busy holiday shopping season. U.S. President Joe Biden's announcement last week that the Port of Los Angeles would begin operating 24 hours a day seems to have done little so far to thin the number of anchored ships. Complicating matters, the U.S. is facing a shortage of truck drivers to pick up cargo from the ports.
The Texas legislature has signed off on new congressional districts, which critics say have been gerrymandered to shore up Republican dominance in an increasingly diversified state. The end result? People of color who have fueled the state's population growth have diminished voting power. FSN's Tony Waterman has more from Austin.
Hispanics, blacks, and Asians drove 95% of Texas's population growth over the past decade, and in the last census, the state picked up 2 additional congressional seats. But under the redrawn map, the number of districts in which Hispanics make up the majority of eligible voters drops from 8 to 7, while the number of black districts goes to 0. Districts with majority white voters, who more often vote Republican, increases to 23 from 22. Bolstering the GOP could also tip control of the U.S. House in 2022, influencing policy that impacts not just Texans, but every American. Tony Waterman, Austin, Texas.
Health authorities in Germany have issued new advice about Halloween, telling parents to remember the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic when taking their children trick-or-treating. From Berlin, Trent Murray reports.
The directive from several health ministers called on parents to respect that some of their neighbours might not be ready to welcome spontaneous visits at their home. Citing the COVID-19 pandemic, the health minister of Brandenburg said that those who prefer not to have contact with visitors could instead put packaged sweets outside of their front door. And in Saxony-Anhalt, the government recommended children wear mask protection before they ring any doorbells.
The S&P 500 posted its 5th straight day of gains as U.S. markets rallied on the back of more strong third-quarter earnings reports. The positive earnings so far appear to have eased some investor fears over supply chain disruptions. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and good news, we're finally planning the episode of Freer Talk Live that is coming up in about 2 hours, strategizing how we're going to position the camera so that you can see the maximum amount of suffering that we're going to experience as we eat ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers. Well, Conan at least is going straight for the Reaper. I'm not doing that. I want to build up to it. And I'm using ghost peppers to build up to the Reaper, so it's already starting bad. But you can watch that at video.freetalklive.com. That's our Odyssey channel. It'll take you straight to our page. You can like and subscribe and all of that great stuff. Odyssey is a decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol that is based on LBRY. And basically there, we can't be censored. I mean, they do have some rules. They don't allow nudity or pornography and stuff like that. But in general, they leave us alone. They're never going to ban us for medical misinformation or any of that nonsense. And a newcomer has joined the Odyssey platform, as you were sharing with us earlier, the James Rolfe, who plays the angry video game nerd.
Yeah, one of the most, I would say, longest running YouTube channels out there with over 3.5 million subscribers. It does not just angry video game nerd, but they do movie reviews and things like that. They're now on Odyssey.
Yes, and that's a huge development. I've been a fan of his for many, many, many years. Don't watch him so much anymore, but there was a time where, I always fall asleep watching television. I would just put it on one of his videos and go to sleep.
He's talented. I've enjoyed him for probably 15 years. I mean, I've been a long-time viewer of that channel.
I've never seen this guy before.
Really?
Why has YouTube never recommended all the crap they recommend me? You guys are claiming this guy's all right.
I mean, you grew up playing like the NES and Super Nintendo and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you'd love
it.
Yeah, you'd love it. He's all about reviewing that crap.
I have some channels, some retro channels that I watch regularly. This guy has never come across my feed.
You have to watch the Angry Video Game Nerd, dude. It is highly worth watching.
Yeah, I mean it's a little juvenile at times, but that's just sort of the character that he plays. It is a lot of fun. They put a lot of effort into doing these game reviews, and I don't think he's libertarian or anything like that. And they never really let on to their politics.
Which is good.
There was some sort of. They did reveal that they seemed to be taking COVID pretty seriously, so I suspect they're sort of kind of mainstream in that way. I think they're located in like Philly or New Jersey or something like that.
Speaking of these virtue signalers, there's nothing has infuriated me more than seeing some channels that I have watched for years
coming out
producers
with their views.
And they're on their stupid. They are producing a video with them by themselves in a room, all by their lonesomes.
Yeah.
With a mask on.
They never went that far.
Not talking any COVID nonsense. They're going on talking about whatever they usually talk about, whether it's reviews or it's theories or whatnot.
Well, it's because they don't want to get lynched by the mob.
I would tune that right out.
I have.
Yeah.
Absolutely have. I don't understand at what level of insanity you've gone to.
And you know what? I don't want to see it in fiction either. Like they're starting to put it in fictional shows. From what I've seen some screenshots from some like television shows where they're putting the masks.
I've seen some photoshops of movies where they have gone in and put masks on.
Yeah, no. I don't know if they've happened to movies yet, but there's like been some television shows where it's part of the production where they're actually the characters.
I'm really glad I don't watch television then.
Well, I think a lot of people our age don't watch television unless it's movies on the old Netflix and whatnot.
Well, I don't even really watch shows. Like you've been watching Squid Game.
I don't know if you can classify that as a show though. They're like mini movies. It's like a long 9-hour movie.
They've gotten that good, like the production quality is up
it's
on
wonderful.
television these days.
It's really.
I agree.
It's really crisp.
It used to be that in the 80s and the 90s, you could easily tell the difference between a movie and a TV show.
I mean, even South Park, which is what, a 25 minutes.
I have to make an exception because I did finally watch the pandemic and vaccination specials of South Park.
Yeah,
well, it's one of the things I wanted to say about James Nintendo Nerd. Like he did a lot of production value. Basically all by himself in the early days. I think he's got a team that he works with now of his buddies or whatever that help him, and they probably all make money off of it or whatever. But he really showed how much production value you could just do at home back in the mid-aughts and nowadays, like special effects and like all kinds of stuff. Like he did an amazing job, and I think he probably inspired a lot of young people to do their own video work and get into that world. So there's probably a lot of people that owe him for that.
And make Hollywood work for their money. Really take them to task. There's, you got kids who are producing, content that was highly produced content, and they have more viewers than some Hollywood producers.
Yeah, and he's managed to keep the same character and the same gimmick pretty fresh for the last 15 years.
It died off for several years. He stopped doing it.
He never really stopped. He slowed him down, I think, at one point.
Then he did the retro Mega Man reviews from the PC games, and he pointed out in there that, the reason that they stopped making Mega Man is because they couldn't just do the same thing over and over and over. And he alluded to that was why he was, cutting back on the videos.
Yeah. They're still doing them, though, and they're still pretty great. So kudos to him. So do y'all want to hear the rest of this letter to the editor?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Seacoast Online, this is the Seacoast of New Hampshire.
Came out the same morning.
Same exact morning. Touches on a couple of the same exact points. This one is a little more honest. This one says where they're coming from. The Free State Project Watch, which is a group of haters, a group of arch statists, people who love big government, and have been watching the Free Staters. By the way,
they can watch from Massachusetts.
Yeah. Those of you out there who are liberty-minded folks listening to this show, maybe you're active with like the Libertarian Party or something else in your area. Is there a Libertarian Party watch group that keeps abreast of all of your party activities and every one of your candidates on the ballot and actively writes letters to the editor and various different other things to
and have secret strategy meetings where they all get together from the entire state? They all get together in, say, Nashua or something to talk and strategize about how they're going to deal with you.
Does that happen anywhere else besides New Hampshire? I'm going to tell you right now, no, it doesn't, because libertarians everywhere else have no effect. They have no chance of winning anything. And because
they're too small in number.
Yeah, the opposition knows that. And so there is no opposition to the libertarians. They just laugh at you.
And
or
I have to
ignore you.
inform these people, I tried this. I formed the Libertarian Party of the county that I lived in when I lived in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a total of 3 members. There were 30-something registered libertarians within that county.
Yeah.
I sent all of them letters, tried to get their email addresses.
Never showed up.
Never a single one of them. The only ones who ever showed up were the 3 of us who formed the stupid thing, and we never achieved anything.
It would have made a difference if the 30 showed up.
It wouldn't have, but,
would have felt better.
It would have felt better.
Let me go on here. There are more than 40 Free Staters in the New Hampshire legislature today. Alone, a greater accomplishment than anything the Libertarian Party has ever done in its entire 50-year history.
But the Libertarian Party is upset because these people don't have L's next to their names.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Hey, look, they got elected and they're libertarians. Elected as Republicans, they point out. Some suggest the number, including sympathizers, may be as high as 100. The primary
We have
goal,
sympathizers.
Yes. The primary goal of Free Staters is to reduce the role of the federal government as espoused by the American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC. ALEC says the framers, which I've never heard of this group, says the framers intended for states to cede only a minuscule amount of power to the national government, and that over time the amassing of federal power, quote, has led to overregulation and redundant bureaucracy, unquote.
What, those are all true statements?
Even international relations should be in the hands of state legislators, Alex says, as they are, quote, stakeholders in many of the most important national and international issues of the day, unquote. While it is true that in crafting our federal system, the founders stressed that power derives from the people and governmental functions should be carried out at the lowest level practicable, over time, developments in commerce and technology have made it increasingly necessary to regulate matters at national or even international levels.
That's not true at all.
That's absolutely false information.
But that's what they believe.
Yeah, well, that's what they're taught in school these days, to not know how to do anything, to not be able to do anything on your own. You got to ask permission. You got to have someone do it for you.
And we don't need the federal government to set a speed limit on how fast a truck delivering product can travel from Texas to Arkansas.
To reflect nostalgically on simpler days of the 18th century before automobiles, airplanes, and computers.
Simpler days when we were all pooping out in the woods.
It's not a sound basis for running our country today, and they've got 2 more short paragraphs.
Neither is a bunch of dead people who died in the 19th century who said that the Union had to be perpetual because they were going to kill anyone who didn't agree. That's no way to run a country either. We have to try something new, and I think independence is the new thing. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Anyone can publish on the internet, but not everyone is publishing material suited for online reading. According to the Yahoo Style Guide, it cautions that internet content has a few seconds, 3 or less, to encourage people to read more, to take action, or navigate to another one of your pages. So make it easy for readers to pick and choose. Isn't that the way you poke around online? Use short words, short sentences, short paragraphs, bulleted lists, and short pages. Front load what you write, putting the most important information at the beginning of headlines and paragraphs and sentences. Same goes for your keywords, what someone would likely type into the search box on Yahoo or Google. For more tips on communicating better online or in a job interview or everyday life, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
So that's what government does, right? It's a tool of force. It's a coercive monopoly. It's a violent monopoly. And whoever's in charge gets to wield it for their benefit. They get to promote their views and force them down the throat of everybody else. They get to extract money from everybody and use it to benefit their friends.
Let's outlaw democracy instead of outlawing Islam.
That would make more sense. Outlawing government would make more sense than trying to ban people from coming to what at one time was the greatest plot of land on the entire earth. I don't know if it can make that. I don't know if it can make that claim anymore.
But the evidence is that it cannot claim to be the freest, economically freest country in earth. All you have to do is look at the Conservative Heritage Foundation's numbers. And you can go to freetheworld.com, look there too. The fact is, the United States, not the freest country in the world. Sorry.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern. Live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And last year we told you about Intercoin, which can help any business and organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own tokens. So now Intercoin.org has launched worldwide. If there's a token you want to launch or an app you want to build, go to Intercoin.org, enter your email, and the team will get in touch and learn about your needs. That's Intercoin.org, Intercoin.org. And while you're there, if you want, go ahead and pick up some Intercoin for yourself. Again, Intercoin.org. We're talking about haters here who are hating on the Free State Project, and
because we matter. The Free Staters, libertarians in New Hampshire, which it's a larger movement than just the Free State Project. Like, for instance, you didn't sign the Free State Project pledge when you moved here.
Correct,
so.
And I really have no affiliation with the Free State Project. I'm a supporter of the idea.
Yeah, technically I'm not a member of the Free State Project either, but I like what they're doing, so...
They kicked you out or something, right?
No, I actually resigned years ago after they kicked me out of PorcFest. But I'm welcome back at PorcFest now. So,
which is good.
Bridges have been mended, which I'm glad about.
Yeah, I certainly support and approve of what the Free State Project is doing.
Yeah, I love it.
The Free State Project as an idea is one of the best things I've ever heard. Because libertarians, they're everywhere, but they're everywhere in very small numbers.
Right.
Like, if we could take those 3 libertarians in the county that I'm from and move them here, they would be significantly more able to access and alter the political system than if they had stayed in Mississippi. And of course, most of them did, but I came here, so hey, that's progress.
Yeah, if we had 36 more libertarians in the city of Keene, you would have gotten through the primary election.
That's true. The very poorly advertised primary election that fewer than 1,000 people even voted in this thing.
That's what I'm saying. It was literally a few dozen votes was the difference between you not making it.
I suspect that only Democrats voted for me. Would be my Democrats and other libertarians would be my best guess. I don't know either, because there's no way of knowing who voted for who. But I did get ousted, and I'm not terribly upset by that.
People are mad. They don't like the Free Staters here. Some of them because they're statists. They love the government. And they know that the Free Staters, liberty activists, are a threat. In fact, that's what the final paragraph here suggests from this hater that wrote a letter to the editor about the proposal, constitutional amendment to declare independence. This person, Don Nolte, by the way, is their name, from Exeter. That's a Seacoast person. Says secessionists are by definition not patriots.
No, and he is absolutely correct.
And with their growing representation in our state and local government, Free Staters pose a palpable risk. They have been introducing, which that has never been said about libertarians outside of New Hampshire ever.
And I want to be clear, I don't hate the National Libertarian Party.
Me neither. I became a libertarian because of the Libertarian presidential candidate in 1996 and 2000.
I just don't think it's an effective vehicle for securing change. I mean, sure.
It's proven ineffective.
Yeah, getting 3% of the vote or whatever it was Gary Johnson got when he ran in 2012 or whenever it was, sure, that's kind of impressive. That's neat. But you're never going to get better than that in the whole United States versus what's happening here in New Hampshire, where there are 40-ish free state representatives in the House.
There's not even, I don't think, one free, Liberty rep in, Ron Paul's gone, right? So and he didn't run as a libertarian to win. So the libertarians literally have almost no success stories under their ballot. I think they're under the belt. I think there is one person in Wyoming who did win a state rep seat or something, and that's because they went up in a two-way race. There was not a Republican in the race, so it was a libertarian versus a Democrat in Wyoming. So now you know why they won.
Sure.
Right? That's all they got.
That's a local race, yeah.
After 50 years of being a Libertarian Party.
And
anyway,
in what, 20 years, the Free State Project has accomplished this.
Yeah, because the Free State Project first 5,000 members voted on which state to choose, because it wasn't New Hampshire in the beginning. It was 10 different states. New Hampshire won that vote overwhelmingly.
Well, the alternative was Alaska.
Alaska was number 3 on the.
Was it really?
I believe it was number 3.
I'm not unhappy that Alaska did not win.
Maybe it was number 4.
It's just too far away.
I thought Alaska was number 2. But I wasn't there, and I don't know the Free State Project history. Yeah,
at this point. But New Hampshire won overwhelmingly, and the migration began in late 2003. So, yeah, it hasn't even quite been 20 years. They've been introducing proposals to slash local and state budgets,
the horror.
Undermine public education, neglect roads, bridges.
They did undermine public education. I got to give them that. But they undermined public education by giving people a choice on how to educate their children.
You mean the education savings accounts, as I believe they're called?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where the state of New Hampshire will just give you the money they would have spent having your kid in public school so you can do something else like send them to a private school or whatever.
That just happened this year,
by the way, the state isn't really contributing all that much. Most of it's coming from your community. So you got to take that up with your damn council members.
But if the public education system is so bad that offering people the choice of doing something else is undermining the public health education system, then the public education system sucks.
Yes,
and I don't know
does.
why you're trying to funnel everyone through it.
Because they want them to brainwash. They want the kids under their control.
Well, it's not happening in New Hampshire.
He says we're trying to neglect roads, bridges, and other infrastructure.
What is he talking about? There's too much road work being done in New Hampshire.
I have not yet heard of any Free Staters saying, no, we don't need to fix the roads. I mean, it's ridiculous. And overturn community priorities. For more, see the website granitestateprogress.org, which is the group that created the other site he mentions in the beginning, Free State Project Watch. It's Granite State Progress that is behind that particular group. It's their project.
And that's the progressive group that just had a meeting about how to combat the Free State Project.
They sure did.
It sounds like this is coordinated.
And that wasn't their first meeting, by the way. They've had meetings like this over the last several years.
We could easily coordinate our own letters to the editor.
What we can do about this, since Free Staters run as Republicans and since other Republicans support many of their priorities, is to show up at the polls and elect Democrats. Regardless of impediments Republicans place in the way of voting, we need to fight our way through and vote.
Yeah, I don't. Voting along party lines, dude, is how the Republicans ended up with me as their sheriff candidate last year. It's not a good idea. And even though you're a Democrat, you should have learned something from that experience. If you start doing that, just blindly voting for Democrats, I got news for you. Libertarians aren't stupid. We'll just start running as Democrats.
I hope they already are. I don't have any evidence that, of who they might be. But there have been Free Staters who have run and won election as Democrats. Unfortunately, one of them got turned, it seems, completely into a Democrat and renounced their Free State origins. And the other one sort of remained friendly with Free Staters, but also kind of publicly spoke against them. So, like, the Democrats have a lot more lockdown on their party and a lot of control over who gets to run and who doesn't, apparently, from what I understand. So it's a lot harder to kind of infiltrate them.
Well, I'm not going to infiltrate them, but I am going to join the Democrats as my next thing.
Oh, really?
Well,
you mean after next year where you go to the Republican convention?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm waiting until after that. I mean, I burned the bridges with the Republicans. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah, they ended up kicking all of us out of the the Republican Party here or something like that in Keene.
Really? I didn't know about that.
Basically, yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I attended that meeting topless, wearing a leash.
Wasn't it spiked? Like a spiked collar or something like that?
I don't remember if it was spiked or not. It probably would have been,
All right.
but it was a lot of fun. And
Yeah,
they basically just kicked us all out and said, you're not welcome anymore.
I think I would have kicked you out too.
Well, I did it as a troll, obviously.
Obviously.
Because they chose to have this meeting in the privacy and comfort of my home, and I choose to be topless more often than not in the comfort of my home. If they don't want me to be topless, they shouldn't have the meeting in my house. That was my reasoning. But I came up with the idea because I was like, how can I most troll the Republicans at the New Hampshire Republican Committee? And obviously the answer is they're calling me a guy. I might as well just attend this thing topless. But I don't think I can get away with that.
Yeah, there's probably a dress code.
Yeah. So I instead did it in the the Cheshire County Republican meeting, or whatever meeting it was. So I have to come up with something else to troll them. But once I'm done trolling them there, then yeah, I'm registering as a Democrat and carrying on with my shenanigans.
I wonder when that meeting is next year. We have to figure that out so you don't miss it.
Yeah, they're not going to tell me.
I suspect they're going to lose your invitation in the mail or something like that.
Well, luckily, we know someone who is not known to be affiliated with us, who also won his election.
That's right.
And will therefore be a delegate as well. And he will absolutely tell us. And I don't know. We got to brainstorm ways to troll them.
Plus, Matt, our Thursday night co-host, won because he won.
That was the person I was referring to.
Well, he won. I think they know he's affiliated with us, but he won a seat because he won the primary. Even though he didn't win the actual election, he's now got a seat on the Republican convention for 2022. So we're actually going to have a couple of Keeniacs heading that way. I think Bob too, Penguin's boyfriend. Partner.
Exciting things happening in New Hampshire. You should get up here and join in the fun while it's still fun and while we're not banging our heads against the wall, actually succeeding in doing stuff. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The backlog at the 2 busiest ports in the U.S. has reached another record, with 100 ships waiting to enter the California ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. The 2 ports account for around 40% of all shipping containers that enter the U.S. Rachel Silverman has more from Oakland.
The 100 vessels waiting at the 2 ports tops last month's record of 97. Prior to the coronavirus pandemic, the highest number of ships waiting to dock had been 17, according to the Marine Exchange of Southern California. The backlog of inventory has stoked fears of higher prices and empty shelves during the busy holiday shopping season. U.S. President Joe Biden's announcement last week that the Port of Los Angeles would begin operating 24 hours a day seems to have done little so far to thin the number of anchored ships. Complicating matters, the U.S. is facing a shortage of truck drivers to pick up cargo from the ports.
The Texas legislature has signed off on new congressional districts, which critics say have been gerrymandered to shore up Republican dominance in an increasingly diversified state. The end result? People of color who have fueled the state's population growth have diminished voting power. FSN's Tony Waterman has more from Austin.
Hispanics, blacks, and Asians drove 95% of Texas's population growth over the past decade, and in the last census, the state picked up 2 additional congressional seats. But under the redrawn map, the number of districts in which Hispanics make up the majority of eligible voters drops from 8 to 7, while the number of black districts goes to 0. Districts with majority white voters, who more often vote Republican, increases to 23 from 22. Bolstering the GOP could also tip control of the U.S. House in 2022, influencing policy that impacts not just Texans, but every American. Tony Waterman, Austin, Texas.
Health authorities in Germany have issued new advice about Halloween, telling parents to remember the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic when taking their children trick-or-treating. From Berlin, Trent Murray reports.
The directive from several health ministers called on parents to respect that some of their neighbours might not be ready to welcome spontaneous visits at their home. Citing the COVID-19 pandemic, the health minister of Brandenburg said that those who prefer not to have contact with visitors could instead put packaged sweets outside of their front door. And in Saxony-Anhalt, the government recommended children wear mask protection before they ring any doorbells.
The S&P 500 posted its 5th straight day of gains as U.S. markets rallied on the back of more strong third-quarter earnings reports. The positive earnings so far appear to have eased some investor fears over supply chain disruptions. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today in more depth at the life and times of Colin Powell, who died on Monday. The former Secretary of State came to regret his decision in 2003 to make the case for war against Iraq in a speech at the United Nations that claimed Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. It turned out he did not. It was that speech that Colin Powell knew would always figure in the first paragraph of his obituary, and in interviews he often bristled when he was challenged again to apologize for it. But he was more than just one speech. A career military man, a Vietnam veteran with an astute mind for diplomacy, and one of the first American centrists to realize that the Republican Party was drifting from its moorings. Former British Cabinet Minister David Mellor.
Colin Powell was a fascinating man in so many ways. He served in the forces where he was hugely successful. He then made the transition from a military role to a civilian role. And there were times when he was spoken of as a potential presidential candidate. But I think there was family resistance always to him doing that.
His wife, Alma, blocked the notion of a presidential run, fearing a black candidate would face a possible assassination attempt. Barack Obama proved that wrong, and in 2008, Colin Powell backed him over Republican John McCain. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The backlog at the 2 busiest U.S. ports reaches another record, with 100 ships waiting to enter the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. The Texas legislature signs off on new congressional districts, which critics say have been gerrymandered to shore up Republican dominance. And the S&P 500 posts its fifth straight day of gains as markets rally on the back of more strong third quarter earnings. That is the latest Feature Story News. Ira Spitzer reporting.
Everyone in a bustling Chinese parade is attempting to elude pursuers. Newly discovered cave paintings suggest early man was battling a lot of inner demons, and a xylophonist is shredding it. This Tuesday, FBI officials disclosed details of a disturbing al-Qaeda plot to just kick back, relax, and savor the inevitable collapse of the United States. Intelligence agencies confirmed the massive coordinated plan involves terrorist cells across the globe, training specifically to take a load off and unwind as America's political infighting, class divides, moral indolence, and environmental self-destruction gradually tear the nation apart.
Our righteous warriors will devote our time to relaxing and really soaking in the infidel self-destruction. America's cities will be reduced to ruins. The economy will come to a standstill. And we, the Blessed of Islam, will kick back, put our feet up, and enjoy the show. It's going to be great.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, where you can call in, share your thoughts and opinions. 603-242-6160 is the call-in line. I don't know what that other number I was saying was. 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And man, I am dreading what's going to happen in a little over an hour and 20 minutes from now when at video.freetalklive.com we're going to be eating ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers, and I am not excited that I have chosen, because this was our idea, to do this to ourselves.
And we've been putting it off too.
Well, not intentionally.
Yeah, well, things happen, but I mean, a lot of people are coming at me and they're like, dude, you promised. You said you were going to do it. You've never gone back on your word.
Well, we're not going back on our word.
No,
that's
we're doing
that's
it.
the only reason I'm proceeding at this point.
But I am being lambasted with people, my neighbors, my family, people at work. They're like, where's the video coming out, dude? I'm like, it's coming. It's coming. I don't want to do it, but I don't break my word.
Absolutely. But we do have a caller. We have Eamon calling from New Jersey. Eamon, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
So I recently, I got fired from my job. I called a couple of weeks earlier, and you could probably guess why I got fired.
Was it because you didn't want to get the vaccine?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I seem to recall this. You work in an animal shelter or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they put masks on the dogs there on the shelter?
Well, ironically, they at one point they
We're
came up
considering
with
it?
really an idea.
Yeah.
Well, they started putting pillowcases in front of the cat cages at one point.
In front
Why?
of why?
To protect them or to protect you from the cats?
Well, they said it would help disease control. So I guess that you could argue that's like putting a mask on the cat.
How's anyone supposed to see the cats?
Yeah, that sounds inhumane.
Well, it was not covering the whole thing. Huh. It was like they said that at first, but then they're like, no, it's to give the cat a hiding spot. It's not a big deal.
Now, did they actually fire you or did you quit?
They fired me. I was thinking of coming in anyway, but
well, I mean, if they fired you, I would recommend against that.
Yeah, well, and then I got up on what was going to be the first day coming back, and I was like, nah, I could just sleep in instead, because there was like they stalked me through the hallway one day because I forgot to bring like a negative COVID test, even though no one else had to except for me. And like they didn't believe me when I was like trying to load it on the computer. They made me like they didn't trust me that much. Like they had to specifically watch me load it on the computer. It was ridiculous.
Who wants to work with people like this?
Yeah, I think you got out of a bad situation. I think you were in the right You need to. There's other people who'll be more accepting of you, and that's just crazy. Those are crazy people.
Yeah, that's what this all has to shake out as, is the people who are willing to stand up for themselves and willing to actually have a belief that they are going to make a stand on are going to get separated out from these cowards and these, government obedient people that are going to be in these other operations. And then other people just need to create places where unvaccinated people feel welcome to work and welcome to shop, like In-N-Out Burger.
Yep. So what's next for you, Eamon?
Craziest part?
Yeah, please.
But so I just assumed everybody else felt the same way, like everybody else was in on it because they didn't really complain. They all bragged about getting vaccinated back when it came out. But on my second to last day there, I got called to go into the medical room during my break, and I went in, and the whole staff got me a cake and everything. They signed the card. Every single one of them, 100% of the staff were like, "This is ridiculous. We don't care if you're unvaccinated."
So who made the decision to fire you?
The management that doesn't even work in the building.
Sounds about right.
Literally three
the
people
pin pushers
in the company that care about this.
And were you the only one at this facility that was fired?
No, there was one other woman that got fired with me.
Wow.
And they all made us a card, and we got our picture taken in front of the building, and it's just ridiculous. And the same week, they put a freaking sign in front of the building saying, "We apologize for longer wait times due to staff shortages."
Yeah, sounds about right.
Up.
All right, and what is 2 less employees going to do to that facility? Are they going to be able to pick up the slack?
Well, the job I was doing, so there are over 100 people that work there.
You have volunteers and stuff too, right?
Yeah, but most full-time staff. But I was an adoption counselor, which I'd argue is the most important job in the building. And there was only 6 left.
And these are the people that meet with the potential, people to adopt an animal.
Yeah, and not only that, but I also did the cleaning and everything. Literally did everything, and I covered a bunch of shifts that no one else wanted to do.
Wow.
And I worked over an hour and a half of overtime every day the last week I was there, and they still fired me. And
well, that's because it wasn't, it was a cold bureaucrat who made this decision and not someone who actually has to deal with the fallout from this. I mean, you're not a person when you work for these people. You're just a number. You're disposable. You're expendable.
Some of these bureaucrats are going to, and they already are, feeling the pain of these silly decisions, and it's coming to bite them. You might, do you love this job? Did you love working there?
I'm already gone.
Yeah, but did you love the job?
They already got rid of me.
Did you like the job?
I did really enjoy the job.
Would you go back if they asked you?
I wouldn't. I mean, it sounds like they were awful to you.
Yeah, but he says his coworkers seem to be on the up and up.
Yeah, but his coworkers being nice isn't going to make the toxic environment any better. I mean, who was it who was following you around? That was your coworkers.
His coworkers weren't willing to make the stand.
No. That was the HR manager, believe it or not.
Yeah, but the coworkers were too cowardly to make a stand. They were like, "Oh man, we love you. Goodbye."
As if to soothe their guilty consciences.
Yeah. I mean, it is all about numbers, though. I mean, because if it was 25% of the workers, if 25 or 30 of the 100 people that were there said, "We're not going to get the shot, we're not going to jump through your hoops," then the pencil pushers would have had a lot more to think about.
Or even if they had said, "Hey, no, this is our friend. He's a good coworker, and if you fire him,
we'll quit in
solidarity.
Going to
quit." Yeah,
yeah, that would be a powerful thing to say. But no, they didn't. Just like, all right, well, let's buy him a cake.
Yeah, it's tragic. I mean, it's going to continue happening. But I really don't think that many places can afford to do it. And I wonder how many.
Southwest Airlines couldn't.
No, and I wonder how many of these places have employees who don't want the shot and would refuse to get the shot, but they finally did because they don't want to lose their job.
That's absolutely what's happening out there.
Because they're not willing to make the stand.
But if they only knew all the naysayers who were against this, which the mainstream media does not talk about, if they did, just like the letters to the editor, if you knew that person is actually out there, you might be more likely to stand up for yourself. But that information isn't out there. That's what's so great about this show. We're talking about this. Well,
and get this. There was a woman who wasn't going to take it, but then she was forced to take it, and she got hospitalized with myocarditis. And they keep making the argument. They're like, "Oh, but that's so rare." It happens to somebody on the freaking staff.
It's not rare.
To me, it doesn't matter how rare it is or not. It's a possibility, whereas I know COVID-19 I'm going to survive it if I get it, and it's not going to affect me very much at all. So it's
COVID-19 isn't going to give you myocarditis.
Yeah, absolutely not. Thank you so much for the call tonight, Eamon.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
It is just a matter of weighing different risks, and as far as I can tell, the risk that COVID-19 poses to me, or the possibility that I'm going to transmit it to someone who could die from it, is extremely unlikely.
Hey, I don't know if Eamon loves liberty, but if he does, you just got cut free of a job, get on up to New Hampshire. There's people hiring everywhere up here. If you love freedom, you got to get up here.
Absolutely. 603-283-6160 if you want to join the discussion tonight. That's 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today. You ain't going to make it. Wait a minute.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. As always, you're invited to join us, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that, because that's what we do here on Free Talk Live. We invite you to share your thoughts, your opinions on national radio. If you value that, you may consider checking out the new AMPS program. The AMP program has been retired. There were some issues with the credit card processor, and there were issues with the old website. So basically everything got remodeled. And we now have the AMPS program, which stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support Free Talk Live. Check it out. You can find it at amps.freetalklive.com. Indie Gun Church is tonight's amplifier. That means they've joined...
Oh, man, I was just thinking about, what else could have been called besides AMPS? And I just now thought of PMS, Promote, Market, Support. We could have cut the A out completely. Oh, well.
Well, it's not hard to set up a new domain or subdomain. Anyway, call it pms.freetalklive.com. That should also forward to Wednesday night's episode archives. Anyway, Indie Gun Church is tonight's amplifier. That means Indie Gun Church is giving $10 per month through Patreon. You can find that at amps.freetalklive.com. It doesn't take that much. Getting in only costs $5 per month, and you get an AMP-only podcast version of the podcast, which means there's no advertisements in it. So check it out, amps.freetalklive.com. If you value the show and you want to show your support, that's the best way to do it. amps.freetalklive.com. So I spend every October, I didn't last year because I was a bit busy with the sheriff stuff, but generally I spend every October watching a lot of horror movies, and this year
Don't you normally watch a lot of horror movies?
I do, but in October it goes up a
You're like every
notch.
day without fail.
I try to average, not every day without fail, but I try to average 31 movies throughout the month.
Okay.
So some days I watch 2, some days I don't watch any.
Gotcha.
It varies. The latest one I watched was Halloween Kills, which is the latest sequel to the reboot of Halloween.
Sequel to the reboot to the...
Yeah, it's all very confusing. But
yeah, because apparently I was reading about this last night. There are now 4 different timelines, canon movie timelines for Halloween, apparently. There's the original timeline of the first 6 movies, and then they undid something with H2O, and then there was the reboot that happened in 2007, I think.
There was a Rob Zombie one.
Rob Zombie, and now there's this new one, which isn't really as much of a reboot as it is a alternate sequel. So this sequel takes over after the one that came out in 2018, Halloween, is named the same as the 1978 movie that it is a sequel to. So 1978 Halloween,
Speaking
2018
of this,
Halloween.
We mentioned the Angry Video Game Nerd earlier. He has a video called Chronologically Confused.
Yeah, where he goes into all this.
And it's every bit as bad as something that he should be ranting about.
Yeah.
So it is very stupid, the chronology here.
Just the senseless naming of movies.
Yeah, they could have easily called this, oops, we screwed up last time, this is Halloween 3.
Did you see this most recent one, the 2018 Halloween? The one
I can't even remember the last horror show that I've ever watched.
Not a horror movie
I am
watcher?
not, and I don't understand Aria's love of them. So if she wants to, the fact that she's watching one every single day this month, pretty much,
yeah,
has got me. I'd just be, I don't know, I'd be having bad dreams and always on the seat of my pants, seat of my chair.
That's interesting. I did have this experience when I first started taking estrogen where I had to stop watching horror movies for a period of 6 months. I mean, I was going crazy. Once night fell, I would turn off all the lights and just sit there quietly. If my cats made noise, I was terrified. I was terrified to look out the window because I thought I would look out the window and like see the face of a demon. I was losing my mind.
This explains why women don't tend to like horror movies, from what I've seen, right?
Well, my body adjusted to it, and I went back to normal, and nothing like that has happened since. But I will never forget that 6-month period of just borderline psychosis.
Yeah, they don't affect me like that, Conan. Although I'm not like a horror fanatic like Arya is. I do enjoy some of it. I don't, I don't watch it for like the gore factor or anything like that. I don't really care for gore fests or whatever. That's not what attracts me. But I do enjoy like the classic Halloween, the classic, Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street.
I think it's really comes down to the jump scares.
Scream.
I don't like that. I don't
like jump scares either.
I don't need that in my life. Now, I do. There's been some really interesting movies. I like Clive Barker.
Okay, that I've never seen.
But I don't know if you can call that horror. It's almost like it's psychological fantasy. I like his books as well.
This movie didn't have the Halloween Kills. I didn't notice any jump scares, really. Did you?
No. Jump scares are cheap, and I'm not generally a fan of movies that have them either because it's just a cheap manipulation tactic where they make everything quiet and sort of eerie, and then suddenly something happens, and it makes everyone jump. It's like, well, that's a natural reaction. That's not scary. That's just, oh, you startled me.
Yeah, I don't mind them. I don't like horror movies the same way I don't like snakes or spiders. I don't want to go touch the tarantula. And it's the same thing with horror movies. I guess on a psychological level, I don't need that in my life.
Yeah.
Well, this one, it's much more like the classic 80s Halloween movies than it is any other horror movie that's come out in the last
Did you watch all the
one.
Halloween movies?
I think there's a few I haven't seen.
See, I never saw the 80s ones after the second or third one. I didn't watch 4, 5, or 6. I've never seen them.
I've seen up to Season of the Witch, whichever one that was.
I don't remember. It was
remember.
number 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure if I've seen any of the other ones or not.
I guess I should say 80s and 90s because the series has gone for those decades.
Yeah, that one got a little stupid, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can't imagine how stupid the rest of them get, so I'm stopping here. But I did watch the first 2 at the very least, and then I watched Season of the Witch, and it has a very 80s vibe to how it was made.
Yeah, those are early 80s.
No, I'm sorry, I'm at the 2018 and Halloween Kills.
Oh, well, you could tell that the creators of 2018 Halloween were big fans of the original series. Like, you could tell. Like, they definitely harken back to that kind of
I thought it was
feel.
The same creator.
No, John Carpenter, the director of Halloween, did the music. He's actually, I believe, in his early 80s now, and so he's not losing it or anything like that. He's just tired of directing movies, and he wants to do music now because he always did music for almost all of his films. Are actually him doing the score. So he did the directing and the score for his movies, which is fairly unusual.
That's
right?
impressive.
And so
he was the one who came up with that distinct Halloween theme song.
Yeah, that's him.
Wow.
Everybody knows that.
They do.
Right?
By the way, I like some of Carpenter's movies too.
He's great. He's great.
Mouth of Madness, I believe, was one of his.
The Thing is one of his best. I mean, The Thing is an amazing.
But again, film. I don't know if I really classify that as horror. And
The Thing is this sci-fi horror film.
It's
hands down, that is a horror movie. It's a psychological one because it's
and that's what I like about it.
In The Thing, you don't know who the killer is, which is fun.
I like a lot of psychological horror. I think, though, my favorite is supernatural horror because I'm not scared of, a serial killer or something like that. That's flesh and blood. That's a human being. You can deal with that.
Not Michael Myers.
No, I would categorize Michael Myers as falling into the supernatural category.
And I don't really feel like that's a spoiler. I feel like if you've seen the series, you kind of know that Michael Myers is something more than a man.
If anyone has existed in the last 40 years, I imagine they have some knowledge of that. Michael Myers, the serial killer who just always walks and is always right behind you no matter how fast you're running.
And you can stab him and he'll get back up
or shoot him or set him on fire.
They take it to another level, I will say, with this movie. I think there's more to say about this.
There absolutely is. 603-283-6160. Am I crazy for watching all of these horror movies? I don't think so. I find them enjoyable, but I do have to take breaks every few days where I don't digest any of them. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The backlog at the two busiest ports in the U.S. has reached another record, with 100 ships waiting to enter the California ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. The two ports account for around 40% of all shipping containers that enter the U.S. Rachel Silverman has more from Oakland.
The 100 vessels waiting at the two ports tops last month's record of 97. Prior to the coronavirus pandemic, the highest number of ships waiting to dock had been 17, according to the Marine Exchange of Southern California. The backlog of inventory has stoked fears of higher prices and empty shelves during the busy holiday shopping season. U.S. President Joe Biden's announcement last week that the Port of Los Angeles would begin operating 24 hours a day seems to have done little so far to thin the number of anchored ships. Complicating matters, the U.S. is facing a shortage of truck drivers to pick up cargo from the ports.
The Texas legislature has signed off on new congressional districts, which critics say have been gerrymandered to shore up Republican dominance in an increasingly diversified state. The end result? People of color who have fueled the state's population growth have diminished voting power. FSN's Tony Waterman has more from Austin.
Hispanics, blacks, and Asians drove 95% of Texas's population growth over the past decade, and in the last census, the state picked up 2 additional congressional seats. But under the redrawn map, the number of districts in which Hispanics make up the majority of eligible voters drops from 8 to 7, while the number of black districts goes to 0. Districts with majority white voters, who more often vote Republican, increases to 23 from 22. Bolstering the GOP could also tip control of the U.S. House in 2022, influencing policy that impacts not just Texans, but every American. Tony Waterman, Austin, Texas.
Health authorities in Germany have issued new advice about Halloween, telling parents to remember the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic when taking their children trick-or-treating. From Berlin, Trent Murray reports.
The directive from several health ministers called on parents to respect that some of their neighbours might not be ready to welcome spontaneous visits at their home. Citing the COVID-19 pandemic, the health minister of Brandenburg said that those who prefer not to have contact with visitors could instead put packaged sweets outside of their front door. And in Saxony-Anhalt, the government recommended children wear mask protection before they ring any doorbells.
The S&P 500 posted its 5th straight day of gains as U.S. markets rallied on the back of more strong third-quarter earnings reports. The positive earnings so far appear to have eased some investor fears over supply chain disruptions. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to join our discussion. Right now we're talking about horror movies. That's 603-283-6160. Because I love horror movies and I love horror video games. I've since learned that realistically a good horror video game, it's a bit too much for me to take at a lot of times. Like I recently started playing Resident Evil 7. I played it for maybe half an hour. And that's because the level of intensity that a video game can create versus the level of intensity that a movie can create are drastically different things. Like, you know how in a horror movie you might have the scene where they enter the haunted house and they creep around in the dark for like maybe 30 seconds before something spooky happens.
Mm-hmm.
In a video game, that scene sort of gets dragged out into lasting 30 minutes.
Yeah, not to mention the movie, you're just along for the ride. Whereas
Yes.
the video game, it's actually kind of you.
Yes,
And
especially in Resident Evil 7, which is first-person perspective.
Right.
I was actually waiting until I had VR to play it because...
And you do now?
No, I just decided it wasn't worth it. I would have just been getting a VR for the one game. I was like,
That's a bad reason to get a VR.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm just going to play the game. But otherwise, I've been watching a lot of horror movies. Most recently, Halloween Kills, which I liked. The only part of it I did not like was when Michael Myers killed the gay couple. And let me explain.
They were fun.
But look, I don't believe that any psychopathic, evil, monster serial killer in 2021 would kill a gay couple.
What?
Because the politically correct culture would just crucify them for that. Kill all the straight people you want.
What are you talking about?
It's a joke, man.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty clear it was obviously a joke. Sorry. No,
Well, I mean, it's nice that they actually didn't, discriminate in that way in a 2021 movie,
Sure.
But
yeah, it was a joke about how, the woke left culture is so prone to canceling people that even a serial killer wouldn't kill a gay couple for fear of being canceled.
Well, now you've spoiled the movie.
Well, you know what? It's only just come
Well,
out.
I think that Michael Myers killing people isn't really spoiling the movie.
don't get attached to anyone in this particular movie. I mean, it is called Halloween Kills.
Well, just wait for it. I mean,
it's got a record body count, by the way.
We might be seeing a cancel Michael Myers petition coming up.
By the way, I have to
for
make
killing a gay couple.
Oh, I don't think that's
I have to
really
make a
going to
correction.
happen.
I said Carpenter, the original director of Halloween, was over 80. He's actually only 73. He just looks really old. He's always looked old. But talented guy. He's doing the music now for both of the Halloween and Halloween Kills reboots. There is going to be a third, so this is expected to be a trilogy at this point. And I'll say this about Halloween Kills. I really liked the Halloween reboot or re-sequel, whatever you want to call it, from 2018. I thought it was a nice continuation. It was suspenseful, as they're building up to this conflict between Jamie Lee Curtis's now lady in her 60s character and her daughters and Michael Myers. In this movie, I don't think it's that much of a spoiler to tell you that she's basically bedridden in a hospital. She gets stabbed, I think, in the 2018 one or something. And
well, Halloween Kills picks up right where
after.
the 2018 one left off, and she had just been stabbed.
Yeah, so she's laid up in a hospital throughout almost the entire movie. So don't expect a whole lot out of Jamie Lee Curtis. This story is basically about the town and the other people, and like the people in Haddonfield, this fictional town that Michael Myers is from. And one of the fan service things that I didn't realize as I was watching it, because I'm not a humongous fan of the series, but I did enjoy Halloween, the original one, is they actually brought back some of the original actors from the 1978 film.
Playing adults now?
Yeah.
I suspected that was the case, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, they brought back at least like 3 or 4 actors besides Jamie Lee Curtis, who had not appeared in, Halloweens for roughly 40 or 39 years. So that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the case. I did wonder about that. When the guy told the story about what happened to him 40 years ago, I was like, they could have gotten the kid from that movie to pretty much play this because it's about 40 years later.
He wasn't one of them, but they did bring some of them back. And like I said, don't get attached to many of the characters in this.
Well, the only one that you're 100% sure isn't going to die is Jamie Lee Curtis.
No, you can't really be sure about that in the Halloween movies because they've killed Jamie Lee Curtis before in the Halloween movies. Yeah. Yeah, I think
I don't recall her dying in any of them.
I never watched it. The movie.
I thought she died in the last. Well, you know what? I don't know. I've never seen any of them.
There was Halloween H2O. She does not die in that movie, but she. I think it's okay to say this at this point. It's been a decade plus. In the sequel to that, she dies in the very beginning of that movie.
I didn't know there was a sequel to H2O.
I never saw that movie, but I watched a Halloween retrospective a while back. It might have been James Nintendo Nerd who was doing it, but yeah, she's killed off.
Okay, so
right
I didn't
away.
even know there was an H2O sequel.
I think it's called Resurrection.
Which is sad because I really liked H2O. It was the first movie that I ever watched when I was at home by myself at like 11 o'clock at night, and it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's a fine Halloween slasher film. That's what got me
I don't
back
think it
into
holds up, though. The last time I watched it is sometime within the last year or so. There's very little actual movie to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly just... It's very short, first of all, like an hour and 12 minutes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot action. There's a lot of build up around these kids that you just really don't care anything about.
It's your typical teen slasher movie. I mean, really, it wasn't the best movie in the world, but it did what it was supposed to do effectively, right? Like
That's true, it did.
It built up some suspense. It took away, killed some of the teens. You got to see LL Cool J fight Michael Myers, and it was fun. It was a fun movie. I would say this one is not as good as the 2018 Halloween. I don't think it had... it just didn't have whatever level of character, that the previous one did. This one, they just sort of throw a whole bunch of characters into the mix, and they all basically get slaughtered for the most part. And it's really more about Michael Myers just kind of doing his thing to the max. This is a straight up slasher film with a
true 80s quality.
With a little bit of maybe some commentary about the mob justice thing at one point. There's a bit of that in this.
Where they killed the innocent person or something like that. I wasn't entirely clear even who that person was. Maybe I missed the explanation.
There was no explanation. You would have had to, and you did watch the 2018 one right beforehand, so I'm surprised you didn't catch it. He's one of the okay, so for listeners, 2018 Halloween, this again, if you're going to watch it, this doesn't give anything away. It's the beginning of the movie. Michael Myers is in captivity at a mental ward. There's a crash of a bus, like a crazy bus or whatever. They're transporting the prisoners. Michael Myers gets away, and so do a couple of other guys. The guy who was mistaken for Michael Myers and the mob goes after in Halloween Kills is one of the crazies who escaped from the crazy ward along with Michael Myers.
See, I did recently watch the 2018 Halloween, but I have watched something like 19 horror movies in the last 19 days, so a lot of subtle details like that, they just don't register, because if I only watched one movie a month, I would probably be more inclined to remember specific parts of it, but not at the rate that I consume them in October. That's why this year I'm actually making a list of all the movies I watch and like little details about them so I don't forget them, and then watch them again next year and go, oh yeah, that was terrible. I don't want to watch that again.
I liked about this newer movie, I liked that they kind of did some flashbacks to the 1970s, to the original Halloween. They used a couple clips from the original movies, but they also, recreated, and they made it look like the 70s again for a few scenes that were brand new. So I thought that was kind of cool. They didn't do that in 2018. This kind of flashed back between the different generations was kind of interesting. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was, 3 stars.
Yeah, 3 out of 5.
Oh, 3 out of 10?
Yeah, 3 out of 5. Sorry, 3 out of 5, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably agree, just on it kept me engaged.
Yeah,
and
it's a serviceable slasher film, but if you're expecting more out of it, you're not going to get it.
I suspect we'll get more out of the sequel, though, the trilogy, presumably, which will be the end of the series. There, I would expect Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers both to die. I think she says...
She wants to.
She says something to that effect at some point during the movie, that we both have to die.
She feels she has to sacrifice herself.
So I suspect...
Cut his head off.
Yeah. I suspect that will prove to be the ending there. But at any rate, check out Halloween Kills if you haven't already. I would definitely recommend it as something to do.
If you like the series, you got to see it, I think. If you like a good slasher film, this is a good slasher film.
It was tremendously enjoyable. 603-283-6160 if you want to join us. That's 603-283-6160. Conan, however, has been watching Squid Game on Netflix, and we're going to talk about that.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, that's really the reason why I amp, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. We're almost out of time for tonight's show, but hang around afterward, take a break, get some coffee, have a drink, whatever it is you like doing, because at around 10:30 tonight, Conan and I are going to eat some peppers, namely Carolina Reapers, at least one of them for each of us. And for those who don't know, that is the current hottest pepper in the world. There is a new pepper called like Pepper X or something like that, but
it is unofficial.
Okay, so it's officially...
Ed Curry, the creator of the Carolina Reaper, and this new Pepper X has stated that it is like twice as hot, or maybe even 3 times as hot as the Carolina Reaper, but it is unofficial. Guinness has not...
It doesn't sound like it would even be edible at that point.
I don't think the Carolina Reaper is edible.
It's edible.
It smells like poison.
Oh my God.
They do look rather...
intimidating.
They look deadly. They have like
atomic is the word I would choose.
They have like, it has
radioactive.
It has like a scorpion tail hanging off of it.
They look like they're painful to eat.
Yeah.
And you can watch us do that at video.freetalklive.com. That's coming up at 10:30. But in the meantime, been talking about movies and television shows and stuff like that. And Conan, you have been watching Squid Game.
I just finished it. I watched like one episode a night. I'm not one of these guys that sits down and watches the whole thing in an evening. I cannot do that. I understand people who can.
See, I've seen people talking about it on social media, but it doesn't sound like anything I would really be interested in.
I think both of you guys would enjoy it.
I think I would like it. I mean, it sounds like it's an interesting pitch. It's basically a Korean TV series where, what is it, 400 people or something get thrown?
456. They're all Korean. I'm sorry, there's one. It's all people who live in South Korea at the time. And I won't review this because there are hundreds of reviews out there already who do a much better job. I actually want to talk about something different, but basically the gist is they take a bunch of down on their luck Koreans of all stages of life.
People that owe people money. That kind of thing.
They're in debt. Most of them are in debt for some reason or another, or they just have miserable, horrible lives. One of the main characters he actually has brain cancer. He's going to die.
Oh wow!
So he's a prime candidate for this, and basically they're in this game where they play children's games, and to lose you don't want to, because to lose is death.
See, that's sort of why I'm not interested. It's not just the fact that it's a television show that's got like 9 episodes and that's a massive time investment. It's because that's not really an original idea. I've seen so many movies and shows that use that as part of their plots that I hear and I'm like, okay, yeah, I've seen something similar before.
Well, absolutely.
Absolutely.
When I grew up, I was a huge fan of Stephen King's The Long Walk. It's a short story. It's easy to read. I definitely recommend reading it. It's just such a crazy, interesting idea where you basically walk and if you stop, you die. You get shot in the back of the head. And also Stephen King's The Running Man, which is also just a terrific idea. And I really loved it as a kid. But the more I think about it, it's such a gruesome concept where you play a game and you compete with other players, and basically it's a battle royale where you're trying to kill your way out of this thing, or if you stop and don't want to play by the rules, the state comes in, or the controllers, the puppet masters, and they shoot you. So I mean, it's really gruesome, and that is what I find most intriguing about this, because this show is blown up. Netflix is doing really well this quarter because of this show.
Dave Chappelle plus
because of this show, and it is basically down on their luck people, human beings who've lost their jobs, who are in debt, who are miserable, and they go into this controlled scenario, this controlled situation. If they don't play the rules or they don't compete well enough, death is the result. They come out in a box and you get thrown in the incinerator. Why do people love this so much?
I realize it sounds gruesome, but isn't Halloween Kills like one of the top grossing movies of the last several years?
I wouldn't say it's the last several years. I mean, it was the top grossing movie of the weekend. I don't know about.
Okay.
I mean, certainly it's not going to be hard to top 2020 because almost no theaters were open, so you can't really count that year.
Well, this is Netflix's best show ever.
Well, before that, it was Tiger King.
And I just find this so surprising because it's a good show. It's got high production value, but it's not the best thing I've ever seen. I mean,
well, neither was Tiger King, but that was just like a train wreck that you couldn't look away from.
Especially when you consider that it's in another language. You can watch it with the English dub, which by the way,
is that what you do? Do you watch the dub or the?
I watch subtitles. Now, I also like to try to do things while I watch movies. Like I do a lot of going through Seed and stuff, and it's really hard to.
You can't watch subtitles.
You can't.
Doing anything
so I was switching back and forth. The dub isn't that bad. In fact, there's a couple of characters you can't even tell. You don't even notice it anymore. They did a really good job, but you can tell.
Well, obviously.
But I have always liked, even when it comes to the martial arts movies where you want to be concentrating on all the backflips and whatnot, and it's kind of hard to see all these fancy moves when you're reading subtitle at the bottom of the movie. So I go back and forth, and but most often I go with the original the original language because I'm a purist like that.
I'm not a purist, but I love subtitles because I watch a lot of horror movies, and the volume of these things goes from people whispering very quietly to explosively loud at the drop of a hat. And other than constantly fiddling with the volume knob to find out what people are saying, just turn on subtitles.
Now, this is an interesting, to try to get a little bit off the subject. Supposedly, it's the millennials and the Zoomers who watch everything with the subtitles on. I'm one of these. I don't care if the volume is perfect. I always have subtitles on, and I'm always reading.
That's why I don't leave them on, because if they are on, I can't help but read them.
But the thing is you get someone with a dialect, you get someone with an accent, and you all of a sudden you understand them. And I think at the end of the day, you actually have a better understanding of a different dialect or a different accent because you were actually able to read what they were actually saying, and you're not in the dark. So I always leave it on.
I don't, because it just distracts me from the movie more often than not. But if I'm watching a horror movie that I know has sound issues like that, I'm going to leave them on. But I did watch one recently. I don't remember the name of it because it was completely unremarkable. But like 15 solid minutes of the movie was entirely in Spanish. All of the dialogue was in Spanish.
Even the subtitles?
There were no subtitles, and that was the issue. I had no idea for 15 minutes what these people were saying. And the text that they displayed on the screen, because they were doing that cheap, lazy thing where they would receive a text message and they'd show it in a little Apple-looking bubble there on the screen. And even that was in Spanish. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
There was one scene like that in Squid Games where an Indian was talking with his... There's one Indian, or maybe he's Pakistani. I hope that's a shootable offense right there. But anyways, he's talking to his wife in Indian for like a minute, and it's like you don't know what he's saying unless you have the subtitles on. So that was kind of aggravating. But
well, at least there were subtitles for that.
But I had them off at the time.
Oh.
So I had to turn them back on and figure out what he was saying, which was nothing.
So would you recommend watching it?
Absolutely, especially if you have Netflix already. It's right there. Just watch it. Don't binge them. Take your time. It's not a new idea like Ari has mentioned. It's been done. Nothing new under the sun, but everything's been done.
I don't know if I believe that.
But it's just I think it's the look. I think it's the fact that it's another culture. It's one thing.
They bring a different spin to something that's been done before.
Here's my question. How do the South Koreans, how have they reacted to this? Their own people basically killing each other. Is it easier for us Americans to watch this? Because it's another culture that we don't relate to? Would it be different if they were our own neighbors doing this to each other?
I doubt it. It's never bothered me watching a horror movie that it's like Americans getting killed or white people getting killed or whatever.
I wouldn't think that it would have made it to Netflix if it was unpopular in South Korea. Like if it hadn't been a hit there, why would they have bothered translating it worldwide?
Yeah. Well, this is done so well. I have no doubt that they will Americanize it and they will do their own spin.
Actually, from what I heard about this Squid Game, it was actually intended for an international audience.
Well, I know the creator of it has been trying to get it created for over a decade. He has said some things to the effect that it's anti-capitalist and that it is anti-competition, which doesn't make any sense to me because the whole show is about competition. These people
isn't the point that they're trying to make like we're having to compete with one another every day solely to survive? Isn't that's what I've read the point was.
Yeah, and they've been
they take that and they take it to the most extreme.
Here's the way I see it. And if you're watching this fresh, be looking out for this. The way that I've seen it is these people have actually been drugged. These are the riffraff. And they have been pulled and dragged out of capitalism and they have been dumped into communism. Because that's what the scenario is. That's what the situation is. They live in a game. If they don't follow the rules, they get shot. If they don't compete with one another, they get shot. They're eating boiled eggs and bread and water, and that's it. They're starving. They've been dragged out of capitalism, and they've been dumped into communism. Prove me wrong. We'll talk about it some other time.
I prefer to think of people as cooperating rather than competing with one another to survive. We're cooperating to survive. But if you like competitions, we're not really competing, but stay tuned in about half an hour at video.freetalklive.com. Conan and I are going to torture ourselves for your amusement by eating some ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers. That's video.freetalklive.com at 10:30 in about half an hour.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by